Hello.
Greetings. The first sound I made was a cough.
Yep.
Gross.
I'll do a nasty sip.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Everyone make a gross ASMR sound.
Hello, Spine Cracker.
Yeah, baby.
Ew, just your speaking voice is gross. Yeah.
Welcome to the Spine Crackers podcast. Fellow beloved listeners. You're not fellow listeners. I don't listen. You do.
Yeah, just beloved, though.
Very beloved.
What's going on, bibliophiles and book collectors all across this great land?
Yeah.
It's so great to share our common love for the written word and the smell of ink on a page.
I think my least favorite social media term on like BookTube and in book Instagram or whatever is bookish. People are like, oh, I love other bookish people.
Fuck you. Yeah, it's
I've
like
never heard that one. Well, I've heard recently, because there's YA for young adult.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
seen
That's
OA
huge.
now, which I assume is old adult. OA? Is that what that stands for?
I've never heard that.
Do we need to we need to delineate like old adult?
I'm about to look this up now, right
I've
now.
never heard that before.
I saw it
needs to be
recently. I thought it was first at that. Did you guys watch that stupid show, the OA?
Oh, I was going to say, are they just referring to that
OA?
stupid show?
I watched one
The OA?
episode, I think.
I watched like 2 episodes and I was like, "Fuck this."
Yeah, didn't love it.
But I've seen OA in response to YA, and I can only assume it's old adult
I
literature.
remember a Tinder date like last year told me to watch that, and I was like, we're not going to be together. This show is horrible.
Yeah, like,
Nothing's
why couldn't
coming
you-
up.
Back
why
in my
couldn't you,
day-
tell me that before we went on this date.
Yeah, you should have mentioned it in your
Should have been
freaking
in your
profile.
bio, dude.
Yeah, as soon as you said
Yeah,
this,
all
you
I'm
sent
seeing is,
too clear a packet load.
Overeaters Anonymous is all I'm seeing.
Yeah. Where did you hear
I've never
this?
heard of that before.
Oh.
I saw this on Twitter, of course. So I
Back in my day-
I probably got tricked.
Back in
You
my
got
day,
trolled.
old adult fiction was just called large print, dude. Like, we have
Can
a
I-
word for that already.
Can I tell you a sad story?
Yes.
I used to, way back in the day, I used to work at Borders Books.
Legend. Shout outs to Borders Books.
No,
I
Barnes
remember.
and Nobles. I can't remember.
Oh.
No, not the one that's still.
You can't steal valor from Borders, dude.
Sorry, the one that didn't file for Chapter
Didn't make
11.
it.
Oh,
Yeah,
Barnes and Noble.
That's Barnes
Barnes
and
and
Noble.
Nobles. I sold their e-reader, the Nook,
I
for
remember
them
that, yeah.
during a holiday season once. And this old lady came in and she was like, I have horrible eyesight. The cataracts are slowly stealing my eyes completely shut from the visible world. And I just need the print to be so large, and I can't enjoy my love of books anymore, and it makes me want to fucking die. And I was like, all right, well, let's do a little tech demo of the Nook and see if we can get these letters large enough for you, lady. And I just kept enlarging the letters, and she was like, no. And then I kept enlarging it. She's like, I still can't see them. And then eventually she was like, I can't see them. And I was like, this is as big as the letters get. And she wept quietly.
Oh my god.
Damn.
And
That's
this was like
dark.
3 days before Christmas. And she was
What
just
the
quietly, she just quietly cried just next to me for like a minute.
You just saw someone
and I
coming
just-
to terms with the fact they're never going to read again.
Yeah. And
I mean,
just
that is sad.
sat there
That's
with
very
her.
sad.
No, that's really sad.
Yeah.
You could
then
have
I
just
was
been
like-
like, we have books on tape, bitch.
True. True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 2021, or I guess this was like 2010 maybe. Or something.
Yeah.
Just sitting there, I'm like, so were you buying the thing? Or? because
Are you gonna do it all for the nookie? Or?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I made that joke a bunch,
That's
actually,
good.
Paul. So I appreciate that.
You
said that
did?
too. Yeah, of course. No one thought it
Oh.
was funny.
If if you make the print large enough on any book, it just becomes like a Joyce novel. It's just like one letter on every page.
It really did. Was that? Like, it's pretty close to that. And she was like,
Yeah.
I can't see it. And I was like, lady, who told you could read anymore?
I used to just check out the big print books when the normal print books were like already checked out from the library.
Right.
Because, like, I remember I did that with Zadie Smith's White Teeth.
Ooh.
Yes.
I was trying to read it from the library and it was all checked out, and then I found it in big print version, and so I read it like a fucking old person.
That's epic.
But you
Yeah.
feel more
Are they, like,
Chad
really
because
big? Are they,
they're
like,
bigger? Yeah.
It's
Are they
Yeah, I mean, the
bigger?
book
Good.
is just like, it looks like you're reading like a tome. Like, you look
Right.
cool because
Right.
you're like, look at this fucking doorstop I'm reading, but it's really just big print. So
You hear that, folks? Life hack.
Life hack.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's how you come off as smart.
For all of our single listeners who read in coffee shops, just get the large print edition.
Yeah.
Right. Then you can read The Great Gatsby, and it's 1,000 pages long.
Yeah.
I like the idea also of like a chunky flat book. You remember the like kids books that are made to be like literally like chewed on by infants?
No,
Just
I didn't
get
know
those
about
pages
this.
like real thick, like so you can like really like abuse them.
That's awesome.
They're like plastically coated.
I always liked the great illustrated classics for kids where they had a picture on every other page.
Yes.
And they were also abridged. It was crazy. They were both abridged and they had pictures on every other page. So they were like effectively like 30 pages long.
Right.
But they
Yeah.
looked like a regular book.
I prefer books like that to this day.
Yeah, dude, I could read a book like that in like 30 minutes. It was tight.
Yeah.
How scared would you be if you saw someone with one of those books, like those big ass, like Matt was talking about, with the basically cardboard pages, and they had a bunch of dog ears in it? It's just like that's epic. They just fucking go ape and dog ear like cardboard pages.
Yeah.
Probably really smart.
Well, speaking of going ape,
Ooh.
this is
The Joe Rogan podcast.
this is the Joe Rogan experience.
Jamie, can we pull up?
Fill it up.
Jamie, can we get the sensory deprivation tank going?
Imagine if chimpanzees never existed. How crazy it would be to see one.
Yeah, I'm high. I'm high right now. I smoked before I smoked before I got on.
No, this is the Spine Crackers podcast, and I'm Gabe.
I'm Matt.
I'm juuling. I'm Paul.
And
Jewel.
and you
Special guest.
astute listeners may have noticed a fourth voice in the mix here, and it's a longtime friend of the show. We've had him on before. You know him, you love him. It's Daniel from the Viva la Dude podcast. What's up, Daniel?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for coming back, man.
Of course, man.
Thanks for being the fourth white male out of the four of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Well, I figure, like, the way I'm looking at the Zoom screen right now, it's like one of those political compass tests or
Oh,
whatever.
shit.
And I'm in if I remember correctly, I'm in like the neoliberal corner, so, or at least on my screen I am. So
top left.
I'm gonna, my entire analysis of this book is gonna be like basically as if Hillary Clinton read
We
it,
should
so-
stick. Yeah, that'd be so. That's a good idea to just stick to it. I'm in the authoritarian right, which makes sense.
Yeah, I think top
does
left
make
is
sense.
authoritarian left.
What
Neoliberal
would I
is like
be?
just the center.
Well, Matt, in my screen, Matt is like the like social democratic.
Oh
Matt's
shit! I
bottom
forget
left.
Bottom
we're in,
left.
We're in different.
you're bottom
Oh man,
left.
that's gonna fuck it up
Damn.
bad. Yeah. if we-
Well, this
we're
is
not
too
all seeing the same
confusing. I'm
shit.
sorry I introduced
Yeah.
this idea.
Shouldn't have even mentioned that we're on Zoom. We're actually in the same room together, obviously.
Oh yeah, that was a
We're
joke.
bros.
Yeah,
We're in our recording studio in Texas.
Yeah.
yeah,
JK.
we live in Texas now. We decided to move there after the abortion law. That
Joe,
Yes.
that's the reason we're moving
We
there.
were
yeah.
we were very supportive of that.
Hey,
It's
we're
actually
just trying to make $10,000.
That's right. It's not an ideological endorsement. We're just doing it for the hustle.
Yeah, I'm Dog the Bounty Hunter of these people. No,
I'm ready to have
come
a bunch
on.
of kids.
No, that's
That can't be
that's a
aborted.
fucking insane fucking law, dude.
Yeah.
What is happening right now?
Yeah, that's
Well, you know what they used to say about the development of the fetus in an old and discredited scientific theory is that it's either phylogeny recapitulates ontology or it's the other one around, which is kind of the working theory of what the book is dealing with.
Here we go.
In which the development of the fetus
Nice
sort
segue.
of recreates the evolutionary chain up to the point of, becoming Homo sapien.
We should probably say what the book is. So it's this
That's
this
a
week.
AAA. That was a AAA out of a nosedive.
No, that
and
was
I just
epic.
want everyone to say
that was epic. let's all give Matt a round of applause.
I need
Yeah,
golf
that
claps,
was
please.
elegant.
Thank you.
So this week we're reading A Promised Land by Barack Obama.
What happened? Yeah.
Let me be clear.
Just kidding. We are. What are we reading, Paul? This week?
It's not my pick.
Yeah, I know, but just
Matt's
say the
pick.
name and then make Matt.
We
talk
read
about it.
Altered States, which is I forgot the guy's name already.
Paddy
Paddy
Chayefsky.
Chayefsky.
Patty.
Not his birth name, by the way, obviously, but
It's not. I didn't know that.
no. I don't actually remember what his real name is.
Let's look it up.
Paddy Chayefsky. My choice, everybody.
Oh, okay. His birth name is Sidney Aaron Chayefsky.
Okay. Was that just too Jewish, or why
Why would you
he?
change your name to
I don't
Paddy?
know.
I actually read that he. Well, never mind. We'll get into it later.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
So yeah, Matt, this is your pick. What's up? Why do we read this book? And
Yeah, why?
What's
Why?
up? What's it
Why?
about?
I mean, this was
No
a bit of
spoilers,
just
Paul.
like a bit of a yeah. Okay, Paul, are you okay? I chose it because it was a bit of just more of a curio than anything else. Like I was obviously aware that this wasn't going to be some sort of literary tour de force or anything, but I love the film. The Ken Russell film that I'm sure more people have definitely seen. Definitely a better interpretation
Very
of
famous
the material.
sci-fi
Very famous. And also, just Paddy Chayefsky is an amazing screenwriter. He did Network as probably his most famous movie. He also wrote
Marty.
The Hospital, Marty, all worth checking out. And a lot of like really good like teleplays, they used to call them, for like early television. And this is his first and only novel, I believe. And it just interested me. I remember watching the movie for like the third time and like finally hearing something about how it was based on the novel by the screenwriter. And the movie itself was disowned by Paddy Chayefsky, which is why I never like made the connection before. So yeah, I was just curious. It seemed like a fun, dumb like pulp novel by someone who actually has like some pretty decent writing chops in like a different format, and I was curious.
Yeah, I
Did it
didn't.
live up to your expectations?
That's a spoiler alert, dude.
I had a fun time. That's what I'll say. It's
Wow.
stupid, but I had a fun time reading.
I
it.
didn't even know. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I didn't even know that there was a novel at all.
I didn't know.
I didn't know. And when I went to order this book at my bookstore, they were like looking at me like I was some pretentious asshole trying to find the rare book, because they were like, "This is only in German."
Well, it is out of print. You can't buy it really now, except
Yeah.
used,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Or or in certain worthwhile to donate to websites.
Yeah, facts.
Or you
That's
get
right.
it. You get the PDF emailed to you by you guys.
That's,
What?
Yeah,
we didn't do
right.
that.
No.
And then I load it on. I
No.
load it onto my Kindle, and then read it there.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
These are all viable working options.
Yeah,
Doesn't seem like something we would do.
yeah. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying
It's one possibility.
It's
Well, sure.
possible.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So,
It's one
so
of many realities.
we've all seen the movie or no? Paul, you
I-
have not seen it,
I have
right?
not seen it,
Okay,
yeah.
epic.
This is my first taste of the Altered States world.
You will love the movie.
I'm excited to
guarantee
watch the movie.
Yeah.
the movie's great.
I mean, it's interesting.
I
Yeah,
think
go ahead,
I
Dan.
think Drew Barrymore's in it, right?
She does. She is. She plays their daughter.
Oh
I
shit!
believe.
One of
Like
her early
it's her-
child
One of her
roles.
early child roles.
Debut.
Yeah.
I think it's her cinematic debut.
It's
as they
possible.
say.
The movie was 1980.
The movie's 1980.
correct?
The book is 1978.
Well, and she was in E.T., right? And that was 1980.
Yes.
So okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Also, the great
just got
William
fact
Hurt's
checked, folks.
film debut.
Yes, William
Really?
Hurt's debut. Yeah.
Oh shit, was it?
Yep, it was his
Yeah,
first
I
film.
didn't realize that was his
he had
debut.
done some TV stuff, but he was mostly known as a stage actor before Altered States.
Baby Hurts.
Yeah,
Good looking guy.
Interesting.
yeah. So
So he was like a theater guy, like a drama guy,
yeah, exactly.
and this was his pivot to the silver screen.
That's right.
William Hurt, also shout out just because it's culturally apropos or timely, is he was in the post-Lynchian made-for-TV Dune adaptation as,
Oh,
Duke,
what?
as Duke Leto, and was, I thought, also very good. It just looks cringe now because of the CGI of the early 2000s.
I never
Which-
saw that.
I think I think a lot of the special effects in Altered States, the movie, hold up pretty
Way
well.
better, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
So
you know,
is the
we should-
movie like pretty accurate to this book?
it's very similar.
Yeah,
Very
it's like
soon,
almost
okay.
beat for beat the same.
Plot-wise,
Like,
yeah.
They really don't like veer off the what we read.
Well, and part of that I think is because, and it's we maybe it sounds like we're talking about the movie a lot, but it's hard to disentangle the two.
It was the first
Obviously,
encounter for most of us here.
It was A, that, and B, obviously the same writer, and Chayefsky was like notoriously kind of a dick about it a little bit, and he wanted it to
super
be
precious about it.
like on this. He wanted to be on set every day, like getting every detail from the book. Oh shit! My dog just threw up.
That was the strangest throw up noise I've ever heard in my whole life. Wow.
You definitely didn't have to tell us because I knew right away when I heard that fucking sound, dude.
I thought it was Dan's cat having a hairball.
So
For a second, I was just like,
hold on.
yeah, do you want
wanna
to take
clean
a
that up,
minute,
right?
dude?
Yeah, I'm gonna. You guys can go on ahead.
Well, no, just to continue on what someone was saying about him being sort of like controlling about the adaptation. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did a little reading on him coming into this, and like this was his only novel, and he had previously only done screenplays. So I'm sure he I assume that he like wrote this with an eye towards it being a movie, right? Like, and it even kind of read. It didn't read like a novel all that much. Like it almost read like something that he was planning on being adapted to screen. So I think it was like that was part of the larger vision, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think what Gabe was going to say before his dog puked was before you guys got on, he was telling me that the studio like made him write the novel. They were like, make it a novel first for whatever reason.
Interesting.
So he like kind
So
of
they knew they
read it.
knew they wanted to make a movie, and they were like, do a novel first.
Yeah, I forget exactly what Gabe said, but they basically like said we want it to be a novel first, and he begrudgingly wrote it. That's what I understood from what Gabe said. I don't know.
That would definitely be important background to know because, I mean, it's just an interesting artifact, like I said, and he had literally never done a novel before. So if it were something like forced on him by a studio,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's
Well, I
written
mean-
like that.
It recalls the classic debate, like, is the book better than the movie, or is the movie better than the book, right? Like, and
Right.
almost, I feel like conventionally what happens is people say the book is always better than the movie, but like, I don't know, in this case, I mean,
The Shining's better.
The Shining's better as a movie, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
I like the book
think
better.
I would agree with that take, actually.
Ooh.
I like the book
I mean,
a lot.
Paul, actually, your take is rarer. So why?
Why do I like The Shining more? The
Yeah.
book?
Yeah.
Because it's actually the same reason that Stephen King didn't like the movie, is that like Jack is crazy from the beginning and doesn't really go on an arc towards evil in the movie. But in the book he has like he kind of slowly changes and gets like the hotel kind of gets into his subconscious and he turns crazy and you feel like way more sympathy for him and the family. But in the movies they're like driving in the mountains and he's already looking at his family like he wants to murder them.
That's just.
I mean, I love the movie, but that's
It's
a
Jack
big.
Nicholson's eyebrows, dude.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna kill you. I'm
Well,
gonna
it's
kill you, son.
Well, Gabe,
that's
can you confirm? Like, I didn't read this, but like, did you hear that like the studio was kind of pushing for a novelization before a script was even supposed to be made?
That's the story that I heard. I don't have a source offhand about it, but what I heard was he originally wanted to just do it as a screenplay and make the movie, and then he took it to a studio, and I don't even really understand why a studio would do this, but they were like, "We'll novelize it first," and then maybe they thought that if it was a novel and then it sold well, a screenplay of it would do better, because it's kind of an out there concept for to just drop a movie about, I guess.
It was a
old was he?
rarity.
Was he like in 10th grade when he wrote this book? Or?
I mean, it's like it's definitely got some freshman college dorm vibes where it's like
No, he was an older gentleman,
Yeah.
I believe.
I don't know how old he was when he wrote this, but it was later in his career, right?
Yeah, I mean, he had all the other stuff that he had,
It was from like
marked
the
his success
50s to the early 70s.
all the
he was, like,
goodwill, which is why
in
they
his
let him.
50s or whatever.
Yeah, there's only one way this could have made it past everybody. Yeah, he died in 1981.
He died super young. He wasn't even 60, I don't think.
No, yeah, yeah. So he was like 62 or something. But like, yeah, he all the things that allowed him the goodwill in order to like be like even regarded as somebody who could sell this idea
Right.
were all from the past. Like he had done all the stuff.
And I mean, I think there's a reason, not commenting on the quality of the book, but like there's a reason this is his only novel. It's because he didn't even want to write it as a novel in the first place.
I mean, he's
apparently.
a genius screenplay writer, obviously. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, Network and The Hospital. I've never seen Marty, but I've seen Network and The Hospital, and those are like, you know, all-time great movies. So like Matt was saying, like what he was known for was screenplays, right?
He was a fucking legend.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Still,
whatever
to this
you
day.
want, bruh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna do a thing about a man turning into a monkey? You probably made it nice. You probably made it really interesting and good and smart. And
Yeah.
it's funny because like reading this book, like I knew he there's a little like afterword at the end, and he's like, he spent like 2 years boning up on a bunch of science he didn't know.
Oh, yeah. He did his fucking homework.
Yeah, and that is probably one of the greatest weaknesses, in my opinion, of the novel.
Yeah.
Yes, dude.
Is how much he's trying to sell this fucking bogus concept.
He clearly got lost in the sauce.
He got lost in the sauce. That's all you can say. This man was.
I mean,
too,
yeah. It came across like I said, a 10th grader who like his dad had National Geographic magazine and like Quantum for Kids on the desk, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna write a novel about a monkey man." I mean, I do want to get this out there. This is by far the worst book I've read in a long time. It was absolutely hilariously bad, right? I mean, Elephant in the Room. It was terrible.
Wait,
Did you have fun?
But Paul,
This is
that's
I
like
had fun.
This is a good. I don't want to like take over, but I do. My first thought when I started writing some notes to bring up or whatever, but like I know that he did Network and The Hospital, which are both like satirical films to some extent, right? And so my first initial thought was like, is this also satire?
Yes.
Like, what do you? Because like Paul was just saying, there is this very sort of like freshman dorm, like smoking pot kind of like vibe where it's like, and like you just said, like when he goes deep, he tries to go deep into the fucking science and shit, and it doesn't land well. And so I'm just wondering, like, do you guys think that there's like an element of satire to this?
I hope so.
I don't know. I don't know how it struck you, Matt, but that didn't really cross my mind because it feels so earnest to me. Like it feels so try hard with like the science and the like all that sort of stuff.
Even like the love story felt like very personal too. It felt like he was trying to really get something through with that
genius
love story.
And you know, just like historically, it sort of comes at like the hinge point. One of the hinge points are sort of like it's of the era of like The Hangover from like the real kind of interest in this stuff. You know, like the LSD and tripping and ayahuasca and whatever. Like the
all that
heyday
was
of
over.
all that was way before this book.
Timothy Leary and
Timothy
all that
Leary,
shit.
and I think one of the big influences for Chayefsky specifically was John Lilly, who
Invented the isolation.
the isolation tank and did some like legit, from what I understand, legitimately valuable scientific work on like dolphin communications, like dolphin vocalizations and stuff. But then went into like, I'm gonna try to talk to dolphins, and then it ultimately wound up at like aliens stole my penis. I think he wound up believing.
Lily is one of the most fun biographies you could possibly read. Like, just absolutely all over the fucking map. Like, genuine, probably
sure.
brilliant person. But yeah, like Leary and stuff, he got like, like the book, and it makes sense. He got lost in the sauce, dude.
Yeah,
All
big
all
time.
these all these
Lost
people
in the
got
sauce.
so lost in the sauce.
Got lost
Like,
in the tank.
to the point where he's on ketamine and he's like, there's 12 hierarchies of angel aliens that live, you know, in different layers above the cosmos. It's just like, it's
And they
so
stole my
crazy.
penis.
And they stole my penis.
Also, I have quantum blood.
Yeah,
Apparently,
Just like,
yeah.
yeah, solid state consciousn's and like fucking the echo thing, whatever.
It's just like that meme of the guy that's just like, "Hey, John C. Lilly, how's it going?" And he's like, "Aliens stole my penis." It's just
It's
like,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
I just remember like one of the first passages in like the first like 10, 20 pages, he's like, they're describing someone, like the narrator's describing him like having sex with God.
Yeah.
And just like orgasming in God or whatever, and I'm like, what? Like, what?
So I guess we should probably run through just quickly, like did you guys do that when I was cleaning up my dog barf? Just like the plot.
I
No.
didn't
We
say
did not
that.
do that. We should
Is
do
that on me?
Traditionally.
we ended up talking about The Shining when you were gone.
Oh, that's what's up.
Good at it.
We talked about whether like books or movies are like the book is better than the movie and vice versa,
We had to do it.
Yeah, we have to do it.
which I'm sure we'll return to. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, it matters a lot then to have noted that potentially this was a made under duress, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Coerced novelization.
but he also gave it a lot of thought with the science. 2 years of research, so that
Yeah.
adds to the interest too. So he
Well-
was forced to do it, but also researched a lot.
So the plot is like this brilliant scientist named Eddie Jessup. He's studying, I don't know, something a little bit more grounded on Earth, like the state of consciousness of like schizophrenics. or
Yeah, I think
something.
originally he's working with schizophrenics. Yeah.
And he starts fucking around with the movie. I'm sorry, the movie. Jesus Christ. The book takes place over what, a decade?
I think maybe a little bit less, but around there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's these like there's sort of like there's like no chapters, but there's these breaks where it's like a kind of different set of years or whatever. In different
And it gives like the
locales.
location. It's like, oh, you know, Harvard fucking Gryffindor Common Room, 1962 or whatever.
Right,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And it just kind of charts the intellectual development of this guy who's very brilliant, Eddie Jessup, and he's studying schizophrenics and consciousness and like kind of just trying to locate the. It's got a lot of that cosmic horror thing going on too, but like yeah, like the seat of consciousness and like you know, etc. And he's sort of like casually messing with isolation chambers as well. I actually you
Side
know,
hustle.
I just forget why. And he's friends with a lot of other academics, and a lot of academics kind of in various disciplines make an appearance, and it's a very like cross-disciplinary positive book, kind of. But like, so he meets these like anthropologists and stuff, and
His wife is in anthropology, right?
his wife Emily is also an anthropologist, and at some point.
she's kind of like a Jane Goodall figure.
Yeah, she like studies chimps and yeah.
All these people I feel like are definitely based, on like existing scientists from that general time period of the 60s to the late 70s. But like, I forget what the leap is from him studying that to moving out. He hears about some drug after initially stepping into psychedelics that is like promising in its kind of like effects in terms of his own theories.
Well, one of the from a character perspective, at least, like one of the original important things is that as he tells Emily, like maybe this might have been the scene you were referring to, Daniel, where during like a post-coital moment, she's like, "What do you think about during sex?" And he's like, "The cross." And Jesus on the cross.
Oh, yeah.
That's such a good move, by the way, for all you single men out there.
Yeah.
You know?
If you guys are having problems,
try it out.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to get laid and she asks you about what you were thinking about during sex, definitely say you were thinking about Jesus Christ.
yeah,
On the cross.
Golgotha, yeah.
And he kind of like reveals in that moment that he had like religious visions as a child and was sort of like a sensation in his small town that he was from for a little while, right? And so that's kind of like the grounding moment of his interest in kind of like extra perceptual experiences or whatever.
Also,
Yeah.
just to your point about like the move to Mexico, I think he meets a guy, like I can't remember the name of the guy, but he's Mexican and he like takes him to Mexico and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know this tribe that eats this like crazy fucking mushroom or whatever."
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's
it's like
that's
Joe
after
Rogan
he's moved
ayahuasca.
on. It's after he's moved on from his sensory deprivation research or whatever.
But he's
Right.
basically talking about psilocybin. Like he's talking about the Amanita muscaria or whatever, which is
Yeah.
right, like the
I mean, it's
literally
like-
the
it's
little
like-
red mushroom with white polka dots on it. The like
Yeah.
right.
Isn't
That's
that the
another-
same mushroom that's in Mario Kart? The guy,
Yes.
Toad,
Yep.
yeah.
Toad.
There's
Whoa.
theories about that, bro. If you really want to delve into it for real.
That's a Patreon. That's Patreon only
Yeah.
content.
We could play Mario Kart and talk about that. Go
I
through
mean,
the
there's all kinds of
subreddits.
theories about like that Amanita like being a foundational Christian sort of drug like a catalyst for that kind of thing. I think there's a little doff of the cap to William James and like the varieties of religious experience and like,
Yeah.
all that shit about like people with psychosis and stuff like being the progenitor of prophecy and religious vision and all that. But yeah, he ends up taking this new kind of esoteric drug out in Mexico with this tribe and having this very singular experience that apparently was like consistent and repeatable. And then that draws it into the scientific inquiry portion. And they get in.
Well, he also eats a lizard during that. Remember?
Yes, he does
That's
eat a
Which
lizard.
is foreshadowing.
Allegedly.
Yeah, it's never established.
Well,
Right.
doesn't he claim that they like are setting him up to think that he
Like,
did that?
He,
to, like,
he basically thinks that
plan on
the,
the
that the
white guy,
on the
tribe
gringo.
that the tribe was trolling
Yes.
him.
Yeah.
So he ends up trying to like bring this thing back, and it ends up being real. Like there's some sort of bizarre property with this particular compound that allows there to be a phenomenological instantiation of one's consciousness in what?
I mean, I think his theory, as I understand it, is that it's a way of like accessing genetic memory
Right.
of like early human, it's like pre-human, like simian creatures that he believes is like embedded or encoded somewhere deep in our like DNA structure or whatever, and this drug is a way of reliably like gaining access to that memory.
So shenanigans ensue is the point.
Yeah.
The man has a hard time maintaining his relationship, but it comes back. It's important, love is all you need, and yeah.
And he eventually, I mean, he turns into a monkey.
He turns into a monkey, a little monkey man.
He turns into a 4-foot-tall little monkey man.
Yeah.
And he's fighting dogs, and he's in the zoo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
absolutely just Donkey Kongs some security guards.
It's kind of what I was picturing, like a small Yeti type Donkey Kong monkey
Yeah.
man.
It's Diddy Kong. He's Diddy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got the backwards
Diddy.
cap and everything.
Yeah, eating a banana. Yeah.
But he has
So-
Joe Rogan's face because of sleep deprivation chambers.
I want to read a little chunk that I highlighted in super early on. I have a Kindle, so it's telling me the fucking percentage as opposed to the page number. But
Gross.
If you tap it, it changes. It should change.
no, it didn't.
Oh, never mind.
I have some. It's so old.
Yeah, I have like one from 2015. It just tells me percentages too.
That's
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
oh, you found it? Okay.
yeah, let me read this. This is very early on, and this is so like they get it rolling fast, like, and I think he's taken. This is like an early instantiation of him like taking hallucinogens and having experience. One thing seemed immediately shatteringly clear. Aside from the beach hallucination, his imagery was of a physiological nature. Apparently, one brings into the hallucination the constructs of one's ordinary life. He was a physiologist, therefore, his hallucinations would be within physiological forms. He was looking at his own brain now, moving into the grayish masses of thundering neurons, concerned for the moment with a curious contradiction. Since his hallucinations and his awareness of the hallucinations were both products of his own brain, how could one detachedly observe the other? Especially as his self-awareness was now taking the shape of a swollen, obviously aroused vagina, into which his whole body was plunging with trembling anticipation.
Damn, this is hot, dude.
Keep going.
Hard. Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too. There is a like current of sexuality in this that is also very like awkward.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking that this book read like a Bigfoot erotic fan novel that like I've read plenty of. It was just without the hardcore sex in there.
Yeah.
It's the same writing style.
Except instead of Bigfoot, it's like a multi-dimensional sort of reverted consciousness entity.
Honestly,
So
some
that's
of them are that weird for real. Like it's not even that far off.
Yes,
I believe it.
Splorching. Yeah, come on. So
One
that's
of
like
my
his
favorites-
first trip. That's like his first.
I mean, this
hallucinogenic
is why I
experience.
like originally was like, is this satire? Like,
Is this a joke?
Oh, I was
you
about to
know.
say, Daniel, I'm so with you because like my two other, it's the hospital and network. I was like, he must be like clowning on
academics and shit? Yeah.
well academics smashing into the reality of like all the hippie shit he was also grew up and like witnessed and was an adult to like actually experience firsthand like the hysteria around the John C. Lillys and the Timothy Learys and like so yeah, for a long while I was like, he must be joking. He must be saying, look how silly. And
Yeah.
and I'm going to like, the joke is going to be that like, it's just Return to Monk, what all these people are doing.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
ended
even, like,
up
the
feeling
whole,
like
like-
Gabe, that it was earnest.
Even like the whole setup is like he's supposed to be this brilliant, genius Harvard, whatever his fucking title is, like physiologist. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Psychophysiology.
Yeah.
So, but like he's this brilliant, PhD academic, but yet he is literally reverting to like this proto-human monkey state, and so there's this like tension between like he's brilliant on the one hand, but he's also like trying to sort of attain this like simple state of nothingness. Essentially erasing all of his intellect. I don't know. But I agree. Like I thought it was satire until like the last 25% of the book,
Yeah.
which is like I feel like he is like it's almost saccharine how like earnest he is.
Yeah.
He kind of like just lays it all on the table at the last half or the last 25% for sure. Like
Yeah.
he really just has people monologuing exactly what he's just overtly what he's trying to like get at basically
Right.
by the end.
It's just like I love you, Emily. I love you.
Yeah, love is just it's all we have, and it's just Rick and Morty like fucking it's just so.
Well, I mean, I do think it is worth mentioning that this is like participating in obviously the long and well established tradition of mad scientist narratives, right?
Yes.
Like it's Frankenstein, it's the Island of Dr. Moreau, it's Rick and Morty, it's like it's
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yes, exactly. And maybe Jekyll and Hyde is like a even more like
It's a better example,
direct
yeah.
reference, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to derail the summary. So anyway, what happened?
There's
So
no
he-
rails here.
Nah, there's no, and then that's the end of my summary. Is like like he ends up unlocking a truth, you know, some sort of primordial truth, the thing that all scientists are seeking to eventually ground, you know, themselves within and hope to, but he doesn't like it, and you know, I don't know, he finds the chaos underneath all existence, and it's not a truth worth bringing into humanity because it doesn't matter in the face of love. I don't know.
No, I think that's right. I mean, I guess the only other like character point we should mention is that one of the other things that specifically like kind of preoccupies him is the death of his father, which obviously they grew up religious and all that, and he had these religious visions, and then he sees his father just die this like horrible death over like a long period of time that's just pain and just seems pointless. And sort of it gets him, it's just the classic sort of just like, well, if there's all this pain, then how could God be real? And then and then he goes into science. And then by the end of the book, it's that sort of truth that he discovers is that like, my interpretation maybe anyway, but like, yeah, there is actually nothing on the other side. It's just dark and it is terrible and pointless, but that, you know, it's like this existentialist point, right? That like, okay, that just lends all the more meaning to the here and now. And then he embraces his wife and I'm
touches her butt.
Yeah.
All that really matters is I'm a monkey and I get to touch my wife Emily's butt on her tush.
Yeah. Monkey wife butt grab.
Simian hands wrinkling.
So it's a sort of like return to the material, right? It's like he's been off neglecting his wife and child and obsessed, which is another major theme, just like generally obsession, specifically with the search for truth or whatever. And he finally realizes like, I've been sacrificing too much of my actual life for this abstract thing that turns out doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. There is no truth.
I assume
his conclusion.
I assume that all of these themes that are, you know, they're pretty interesting on paper, or not in this particular, but you know what I mean.
Not on this paper.
Not on this paper right now.
It depends on how you tell the story that these themes can come across in like a profound, meaningful way. And I assume that the movie does a better job with all.
No,
this.
it just no. It
no. Is the movie kind of a B movie?
The movie's just fun, dude. It's just not. It's not preoccupied with what fucking Chayefsky's preoccupied with.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just think about like a fucking monkey emerging from the sensory deprivation chamber.
Dude, it's fucking epic.
It's fucking cool as shit, dude.
Yeah.
Like he just comes out and fucking goes crazy.
Yeah.
What movie is it like similar to?
Well, I mean, I think that's the other thing is that it's in terms of where it falls historically, it's obviously, in my view, kind of a precursor to stuff like The Fly or like Videodrome in terms of like body horror and like weird like 80s sci-fi kind of hallucinatory stuff.
It is very there is a very body horror like that is what it is, yeah.
If any of y'all have seen Ken Russell's stuff and somehow not seen Altered States, he's got a good track record of you know, being visually interesting and very like kind of gross.
I'm not super familiar with his other work, honestly, Ken Russell. But I also heard, in doing a little research for this, that after this movie, because of the drama with Chayefsky, he was essentially blacklisted in working in Hollywood specifically.
What was the drama?
Well, like we talked about, like they didn't get along on set. Ken Russell was actually the second director for this movie, and it took him a long time to even find him after the first guy quit, who I don't remember his name.
You know what this kind of reminded me of? You guys have seen that movie Flatliners?
Yeah.
I think so. While
I mean, I guess the Flatliners is like it's a group of like similarly overly educated fucking grad students and scientists who like purposefully kill themselves and then bring themselves back to life so that they can like get a glimpse of the afterlife or whatever and like report on what they experienced. But I guess it kept reminding me of that. It's like it's from 1990 Flatliners, so it's like a little bit later. But it reminded me of that because of just like the whole theme of like a big part of this book was like the ethics of scientific research, you know, like
yes,
what are you
definitely
allowed to do and should you be able to experiment on yourself and like how reliable are your findings from like a self experiment, you know, like because that was the big thing with him was like, you know, I got to do this, I got to like take these drugs and do this thing over and over again so we can like quantify and put into sort of measurable terms exactly what I'm experiencing. You know, that was like a big theme about this was like honestly like fucking like academic research methods.
Definitely.
You know?
Definitely, because there's I forget what's his name, Mason Parrish.
Yeah,
is his sort of like you know, he has two kind of collaborators on these experiments. It's what's the other guy's name? Rutherford? No, Rosenberg. Rosenberg and Parrish. And Parrish is the sort of like even more sort of hard scientific, skeptical. Like, this is crazy. There's a rational explanation for everything that's happening, et cetera, et cetera. And he kind of serves as the like academic kind of proceduralist finger wagger throughout the whole thing. Like,
he's
dude,
Scully.
Yeah, he's the rationalist because like the
he's
whole
Scully,
time,
exactly.
Yeah,
He's kind of
yeah.
Elon from Ghostbusters.
Yes,
Egon.
and Scully. Yeah,
Don't
Well,
call
'cause-
him Elon, dude.
Elon.
that's a slur. That's a slur these days.
Sorry.
Jessup starts out as this kind of like uber rationalist scientist type, but then he, you know, moves on and basically like the only way he can make sense of what he's experienced is through like this spiritual vocabulary that he adopts at the end.
Yeah,
And yeah, like Rosenberg and Parrish are supposed to represent, I guess, the sort of scientific, you know, counterpart to that. But yeah, I don't know, like it's because I fucking, you know, went to grad school for half a decade, you know, like I kept,
Shout out.
yeah, like the research sort of the ethics of the research part of it was like a big thing that kept grabbing my attention.
Yeah, I definitely some of the. I mean, again, maybe this is just because again, like Daniel, that's kind of my hashtag lived experience. But I thought I thought that the writings about like the parts of the book that were explicitly about academia and sort of like the comportment of academics and stuff were like some of the most effective. Actually,
Yeah, I was going to ask you,
writing.
like, there was like scenes where they were like, you know, it was like 8 or 10 academics out at a bar, and like they were very caricatured, but at the same time they were like, I don't know about you, but like I have actually been in those exact situations where I'm
For
like
sure.
out at a bar with people who are just like going off on the most stupid shit ever. And
Right.
it's like,
just the most fucking parochial, like arcane nonsense. Like, yeah, and obviously I'm not. Science is not my background, but it's just like.
but it is like
over
it's almost like a right wing caricature of like liberal academics or whatever. But it's like it's not wrong totally. You know, it's like,
Yes.
I don't know.
academics
Here
is my
for
profession. Science is my
stereotypes
passion.
Stereotypes are real.
That's the official position of the Spinecrackers podcast. No, it is not.
Well, you
But-
guys, so Matt and Paul, you guys aren't in academia. So, I mean, like, what is
No.
your sense of like, you know, egghead Harvard fucking, you know, science types? Like, do you think that this was, I mean, do you get the sense that this was like an accurate depiction of these people, or do you think it was lampooning them, or?
It's tough because the guy turns into a monkey, right?
That's true. Yeah. It's like, is that a metaphor? Like, what is he trying to say?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said before, like I thought this was I thought this was supposed to be more funny than it ended up. I ended up thinking it was, because I think Gabe's correct that this is like a fully earnest and deeply researched and like serious endeavor by Chayefsky.
That's what made it way more funnier to me, though.
it was funny,
someone, like,
a meta funny for sure. Yeah,
was, like,
Someone
trying
was
hard,
serious
trying
about
too
that.
hard.
Yeah.
because initially I was like, this is such a fun burn if like it's just all this like shit and it's so deeply researched and it's just about how like dumb and like destructive and like the I fucking love science folks are. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
right.
It's
I
like,
hadn't
no,
thought about
they-
that, but yeah, that's right, dude. I fucking love science, guys.
Yeah, they're like a meaningless chaos universe that they all want us to like, you know, commune with and turn into like amoebas.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. It just felt so earnest by the end of it, where it's just like, no, dude, like he's trying to like thread the needle of like and explain to you very pedantically like where science ends and the spiritual begins, and how like you still need to make this like Kierkegaardian leap of faith, and, you know, because there's this unbridgeable gap between like the fucking unknowable chaos of the uncaring universe and you know, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like it felt very serious at the end of the day, at the end of the book.
Yeah, and Dan, those particular parts, I'm just like not in that world at all, so I just I tended to glaze over them. You know, when I go out to a bar, I'm talking to people about like trucks and power tools, so it's like a different experience.
We don't float in those circles. I've never been at like I mean I lived in New York City. And went to Brooklyn social gatherings.
I mean, the fact that you guys are on you have a literature podcast, like I'm sure you are familiar with the types. You just have wisely decided to not, you know, make it your life, which, you know,
a cocktail party with strictly PhDs, I can genuinely say I've never been to, and I just don't know what that's like.
It's terrible. It's like the worst thing.
I've been in a Brooklyn bar with a bunch of humanities BAs.
Honestly, that's better though.
To.
That's better in my experience,
including myself, obviously. But like, you know, that's the closest I've ever gotten.
I mean, I went to art school though, so those social gatherings were worse in a different way too.
Shit.
Yeah,
art school people.
Almost like the opposite. Yeah.
Wait, what's your like artistic medium that you work in, or that you used to work in, maybe?
Digital illustrations.
Okay.
Yeah, but I went to school for drawing and painting.
Okay, so you're
you
like
do digital paintings,
2-dimensional kind of guy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
No sculpture.
No sculptures. No Jinx.
Yet.
Jinx by me, Monkey Man.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but I thought Matt, what you were just saying though about like where does science end and the scientific end and the spiritual begin? I think that is essentially the main question of this book, right?
Right. Yeah. I would say so. You know, like,
and it doesn't really give a satisfying answer, but
well, it gives. You know, it's funny because like we had read some other stuff before that I was thinking about. Like we had read Arthur Machen, right?
Yeah.
We have me and Matt have a video on Machen on
long
our YouTube,
overdue. Yeah.
which we're going to return to soon, right, Matt?
Yes, sir.
Joking.
Did you guys name that segment "Talkin' Mockin'"?
Shit.
No.
Shit.
That's
no,
good,
fuck.
dude.
That is good.
I hate you.
Change
We
it.
just
Such a good
stole
brander.
the
We need to consult you more.
Murakami one. We just called it the Machen minisodes.
Oh my god, you gotta change it.
But it's just funny to think like this stuff written in the like late 1800s is basically tackling the same quandaries.
yeah.
And all the and Machen is considered sort of the grandfather of like you know, the sort of progenitor of Lovecraft and all of this cosmic horror stuff about the like immensity of things outside of the, you know, ability of human reason or comprehension, which is just 100% the territory that this book is also working in, right? Like,
right, yeah.
To the very extent of like even in The Great God Pan, which is one of Machen's most famous short stories, like it is literally about the primordial creative force, which is just what is addressed here as well. But in like 18 whatever. Yeah.
I think probably because I was too wrapped up in the movie and thinking of it as a piece, because it's very like it's very much like a period piece in a lot of ways, like in the sense of coming at the end of this sort of like hallucinogen kind of discourse and craze and, you know, whatever you want to call it, when all of those things were in their sort of at the height of their cultural powers and people cared a lot about it. And then obviously the movie and where the movie fits in terms of some cinematic trends and body horror and all that stuff. So I didn't really make that connection, Matt, as I was reading it. I think probably because I was caught up in some of that other stuff. But I think you're exactly right that he's addressing or preoccupied with a lot of the similar concerns.
Well, even the Cone book we just read. What was that? I forget what it's called. What about the Cone?
Oh, the
Bernhard?
Yeah.
The Bernhardt.
Yeah, the correction.
Yeah.
Yeah, even there's a little bit of that in this book too. But I give correction so much credit.
Well, it's not dealing with the same ultimate theme, you know. It's like
No.
there's obsession. I would
Obsession and sort of some kind of, I don't know if I mean it's a scientific guy who's obsessed with some sort of sense of truth or perfection.
right,
And loves a woman.
and his personal biography starts to bleed in more and more
Right.
into your awareness in ways that undermine his credibility, basically. You know.
Well, and Matt also said like there are a lot of just straight up themes from the 1800s that are just rehashed here. Like I remember, like I pulled out a quote specifically. It's towards the end after he went through the sort of like traumatic explosion event in the lab, and he's talking to his wife, and he says, "I am truth, God is fiction," which is that's just Nietzsche saying God is dead. Like that's just a different words for saying the same thing. You know,
Right.
It's like, and like Gabe, you said this earlier. Like this is a very existential novel. Like it is straight up just like the conclusions he draws is like in the moment, life is all that we can know for sure or whatever. And it's like, yes, that's true, and that's like powerful, but it wasn't exactly novel in 1980. You know,
Right.
like all the existentialists had essentially been saying that for fucking like 50 years. You know,
Yes.
or
This book does
100
not
years, I
break
guess.
any new ground
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah, he just kind of like repackaged it in this weird monkey story.
Yeah. Yes, 100%.
I think so. And I mean, it's Chayefsky himself talking about the book. I saw a few things where he was just sort of like, yeah, it's a love story, man. Like it's a love story basically. And I mean, I think that's where the kind of like what we've all been sort of suggesting is that like by the end you do get that sense, right? That it's earnest and that it's he was sort of trying to tell a story about two people in love. And I think we should probably talk about Emily a bit at this point, because we do get some significant chunks of the book that are from her perspective, right? The whole book, well, not from her perspective, it's sort of omniscient narration or whatever, but we see Emily's thought processes a few times throughout the book, right? And I just wondered what you all made of her characterization or her kind of internal life and her role in the book. Because there's definitely a lot of just like this. I mean, someone made this point. It's a small point, but it's very like old school in the sense of just like she had a tight ass and a pencil skirt, and she looked fucking great.
Well, I mean, the first thing that jumped out to me was like he is literally turning into a primate or an ape, and she is like studying them, and so it was very much like the feminine studies the thing, and the masculine like is the thing. Like there was that sort of separation. I guess.
That's a good point.
To the degree where she's studying baboon communication and he's being a baboon.
Well, and
Yeah.
that turns out to be one of the big breakthroughs where she starts to take what he's doing seriously, because she comes back from like a year or 2 years out of the country, and she has some baboon vocalizations recorded. And at one point, when he's in one of his trips, I guess, for lack of a better term, he starts.
Let's call them what they are: ontogenetic dematuration.
There you go. Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the middle of one of these ontogenetic dematuration processes, he starts making these like simian noises, and she comes back with his kid, and his first thought is, I want to hear those baboon recordings, and they sound very similar to what he's doing in the tank, and so that's one of the things that brings her around to kind of starting to take his research seriously, I guess.
She is woven in like in a way, where it's like he meets her young, their early couple years.
Yeah, she's a grad student when he meets her.
Yes, they're both like
Yes.
in their like early
Hashtag
20s.
problematic.
Deep, very problematic, but also lived experience, very common.
They're of similar age, I think, though, right? Like
I thought she was.
Yeah,
younger
they're
than
not
him.
too far apart.
Yeah,
she's like 2 years younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right. So it is the book goes through great pains because it's taking place over like almost a decade of like the reasoning is twofold. It's like the development of Jessup's thought and also the account of the sort of ups and downs of the relationship between Jessup and Emily. So like the first couple number of years, like Jessup's with Emily and she's like, Jessup, he's a fucking genius. There's a spark in his eyes that gets me wet, and I come multiple times when we fuck, but he's an alien, and he's too obsessed with his pursuit of the truth, and he's just to my face been like, look, I'll never be there in a real way for you if we.
That was
get
one of the
married
most
or have
jarring
kids.
scenes when she's like confronts him about getting married and then like on the next, like they basically break up for like a second, and then on the next page they're like, do you still love me? I still love you until we're married. And then it jumps ahead like 5 years. Like, what the fuck just happened? It happened so quickly.
Yeah, she literally
was-
travels to fucking India to track him down,
Right.
and she hikes up with a Sherpa like up a fucking mountain, and she's like,
Yeah.
and he's just in a cave, and he turns around and sees her, and she's like almost passed out, and then it's like, oh yeah, now we're married, we have kids now.
Yeah, and I think it's
So
supposed to
weird.
be painted as like a admirable quality of Emily's.
Yeah.
It does feel a little like
Yeah, she's like loyal, but it has like a sort of sexist valence, I guess.
Definitely.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
It's just like, I literally was like, she's various occasions, like borderline verbatim, like, damn it, Jessup, why can't I quit you?
Yes,
I mean,
just-
I honestly, like, reading it, I was like, this is basically just the ultimate. This is like the ultimate quest for a man cave. Like, this guy is literally
he's in a
like,
cave.
yeah, he's like, I want a man cave so badly that I'm gonna turn myself into a fucking monkey
And,
lives in
and go into an
literal cave,
isolation tank.
just so I can get away from my bitch wife. Like,
Right.
like that was like. Sometimes it felt like that. you know?
No,
She's-
that
and
definitely,
she's-
definitely.
And she's hiking through the hinterlands of India, going like, "Bomb ass dick, blow my mind." You know what I mean? Just like insane. So like that does feel
Yeah.
dated. And
But the irony of it is that the more he turns into a monkey, the more he loves Emily for whatever reason.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think that's really interesting, right? Like, there's a
well, he learns a lesson.
inverse relationship. Yeah.
Well, it ties to the whole theme that, like, you know, he wants to like get away from the scientific thinking and just be more humanistic, and I think that is the general sense of the monkey metaphor. Like, the more he turns into just being like his natural id self,
Can I
the
read
more he can
another?
experience love.
Can I read another chunk?
Go
Another
for it, dude.
another block quote. Here you go, guys. Quote: "I'm a man in search of his true self. How archetypically American can you get? Everybody's looking for his true self. We're all trying to fulfill ourselves, understand ourselves, get in touch with ourselves, get a hold of ourselves, face the reality of ourselves, explore ourselves, expand ourselves. Ever since we dispensed with God, we've got nothing but ourselves to explain this meaningless horror of a life. We're all weekending at I don't know what, there's misspellings in my fucking copy. Or meditating for 40 minutes a day, or squatting on floors in a communal om, or locking arms in quasi-Sufi dances, or stripping off the deceptions of civilized life and jumping naked into a swimming pool filled with other naked searchers for self. Well, I think that true self, that original self, that first self is real, mensurate, quantifiable thing, tangible and incarnate, and I'm gonna find the fucker."
Isn't that how a chapter ended? That was like
Yep.
I think that's the end
first
of a chapter.
Hard
yeah.
cut. Zapoteca's
That's-
Mexico. It is a script. It's a movie script.
It is.
That's when
Yeah.
That's when I checked out completely. I was like, this is the worst book I've ever read in my whole life.
Well, and there that line, right? The line about I forget exactly how it goes, but like, now that God is gone, we only have ourselves to make sense of this horror, like whatever. Like, that's just Sartre. Like, that's just straight up Sartre, like right there.
Sartre is a fart. Well, what's funny to me is like,
Yes.
do you guys remember the end when they're like, you know, sort of exchanging? They're talking to each other at the end, but like, she essentially arrives at the exact same conclusion that he did, but he had to go through this insane scientific experiment to get there. And she's just like, yeah, no,
I felt that naturally. Yeah.
Like
Right.
she arrived at the exact same end point, but like he had to almost die and go through this like fucking thing to get there. And it's like, I thought that was like such a perfect, like, I don't know, like display of these two characters.
I think through a very awkward
Yes.
process, you are arriving at Chayefsky's like sort of idea that like women are more instinctively, you know, somehow better than men, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he's like he fucking devolves to a cellular level and sees like the fucking
he has to
like
take like
physical
1,000 milligrams of some fucking mushroom and then put himself in a fucking sensory deprivation tank and like turn into a primordial energy ball
and sees
in
some
order for him to
fucking-
figure out that he loves this woman.
Right, exactly.
And then meanwhile, she's just like, yeah, dude, I've loved you the whole time.
He's
You
like,
know?
I turned into a monkey and fucking saw the instant of, and like relived the instant of my birth. And he's like, what I've learned is, you know, my family matters.
And she's like, oh yeah, it took you like that to realize that?
Right.
Yeah. Which is why if it were satire, it would play, I think, really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it would be funny as shit if it were just like really like committing to that as a joke as opposed to like somehow very real. Very earned.
I know, and that's why like I thought for a while it was satire, but then it just didn't ever take that turn. It doubled down on like the sincerity, and I was like, I don't know.
And I just think, Daniel, the way you just put that, and like what Matt said, it's like, that would have been so fucking funny. Like if that was the joke, right? But the tone is just not there for it to be like.
Yeah, and like, you know, you guys have seen Network, right? Like,
I have, yeah. Paul, have you seen it? Yeah.
No.
I mean, Network is like a brilliant satire of media. Like it's like it's satirizing the media, like the corporate media or whatever. And you know, when I started reading this, I didn't know that Chayefsky or whatever his name is was the screenplay writer. Or I looked it up and found that out before I started reading it. So I was like, okay, and maybe that kind of colored my interpretation. But yeah, I just kind of like expected it to have a sort of satirical element, but it wasn't.
And I think that one of the things that's so interesting is that I think that there are elements of what makes something like Network such a good satire. Like there's moments where in Network where it's like very over the top and very just like, you know, like any good satire where it's like a point is just hammered home in a sort of over the top way. Mm-hmm. But it's the tone is completely different than this book.
My question is, does it repaint your notion that he intended to make Network satirical? Or do you think the director maybe twisted or read his screenplay in a satirical way and made it satirical, but in reality, he might have been more earnest?
Well, like I mean that's a good point.
That's actually a really interesting question.
Yeah, no, that is a good point, and it's like, I mean, like to me, the brilliance, like what makes a really good satire or satirical text, like what makes it is when it's obviously there has to be somewhat obviously satire, but not too obviously satire.
Right.
Like it does have to be sort of real still, and that's a really hard thing to like. That's a really fine line to sort of, you know, dance on or whatever. Is like you don't want it to be like if it's too obviously satirical, then that's just like that's lowbrow, you know. But like if it's
That's
like
cringe.
yeah, I don't know.
Except I like Monty Python, and that's like incredibly obviously satirical too. But they're like,
Well, Monty Python's like a just a straight comedy. Like
well, I mean, like the Holy Grail in particular. I would say is a satire, right? You guys have seen that.
It feels different. I mean, yes, you're right. It's satirical, but I guess it's like a different kind of satire. Like
Yeah.
I think like Monty Python is more like The Onion, you know?
Yeah.
Like I don't think Network is like The Onion type satire. I think Network is a more pointed satire. But I think Monty Python is. And I do think The Onion is brilliant. Like I love The Onion.
Yeah.
But I just think they're two different kinds of satire maybe. I don't know. I'd have to think more about it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I think is interesting, Paul, in relation to your question about like, is there some way that this sort of figures or forces you to reanalyze some of the other films that he wrote the screenplays for, is his behavior on the set of this one, which was very micromanagey and very like seemingly concerned with like, how is the director gonna depict what I've written, which
he didn't end up liking the movie,
and he hated the movie, which, as far as I know, is not how he behaved in relation to any of his other screenplays. And I mean, it was to the point where when Ken Russell came on, he was not allowed to change a single fucking comma in the script. He wasn't allowed to do anything, and so he had to do all of these like kind of like backhanded, like backdoor strategies where he would tell William Hurt to like purposely like mumble certain lines so they were less audible because he hated the dialogue. And like all of these like, you know, little directorial strategies that he had to employ.
You know, this,
and I think that's really interesting in terms of thinking about like his other films and like, did he intend something different with those scripts as well?
Well, the thing about like anyone in like especially screenwriters in Hollywood is that like a director can obviously elevate your material, and also editors. Like it makes me think of George Lucas and the first Star Wars. Like that was apparently like heavily edited and changed around a lot, and it became like, you know, destined for greatness. And I'm kind of getting the sense that same thing happened with Altered States, the movie. But I mean this book was hilariously sincere and horrible.
What's
and
funny is that like, or sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and just like the way he acted on set made me think that he probably wanted the interpretation to be just as like over the top and just like exactly like his book, which would have made the movie terrible, even though I haven't seen it. But you know what I mean?
I just like so the other I haven't seen Marty, but like The Hospital and Network, which are like the other two big films that he's known for. The most defining feature of both of those films, and you guys can, Gabe and Matt can speak to this maybe, but like they have very famous soliloquies. Like there are very famous moments, scenes in those movies where like it's just a fucking brilliant like monologue basically in both Network and The Hospital. And I was kind of waiting for that in this novel. I can't remember the movie if they do like a monologue in Altered States.
They do
the movie.
not. They do away with what I think is what you're talking about at the end of the book.
Yeah, and like, you know, that's what I associate with this guy Paddy, is like he like The Hospital especially, like The Hospital has some of the best like sentence level dialogue I think that I've ever seen in like cinema. Like
You're talking about the impotence monologue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like it's amazing. Like, and then obviously there's in
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Well, that, and also when he brings him into that conference room and he talks about how
an audio
there's
clip
no
of this
more
on the
nation
Cosmopolis
states.
intro.
Yeah, there's no more nation states. It's all corporate. Like there are some just brilliant monologues in these movies, and that's what like he's known for. And it wasn't there in this book, unfortunately.
And I think that is actually. And I didn't rewatch the whole movie before this, but I did watch a few scenes on YouTube and stuff. But the dialogue in Altered States is as bad as it is in the book.
Yeah,
it's not great.
Which is so weird because his sentence level dialogue in The Hospital and in Network is amazing. It's so good.
Who knows?
Which I
if
think
that was
speaks
rewritten or anything, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
For Network, I don't know. But for this book, he saw to it, or for this movie, he saw to it that it wasn't. But I think that speaks to the like shift in tone, why it's harder to read this satirically than the others.
And he could have just tackled some subject matter that like just beat him. You know, like he just didn't like. This wasn't a television station or
Right.
he was tackling like he was
a good
very
point,
effective
yeah.
at these two big sort of like, you know, vertically integrated fucking like
Healthcare and the
hierarchical
media are easy
business.
to skewer,
Right.
but like
kind of-
academia,
Academia and like the cultural trends sort of abutting and butting heads with like the limits of human consciousness is not it's not quite as simple, you know. It's
it's harder to make fun of that than it is like our shitty healthcare system and our shitty media.
yeah, right.
And I guess it also left me wondering, like, what Chayefsky's, and I couldn't find much about this, but like, what was the impetus for him to get interested in these topics in the first place, right? Like, did he have some kind of life-changing or formative experience with hallucinogenics, or like what got him interested in this to begin with?
Maybe he just went to a zoo and saw a monkey.
And he was like, that's fucking awesome.
I mean,
I
that's a
could write a
good
book about
question.
that.
Yeah, it's like, did he just smoke really good weed one time and was like,
Right.
whoa, dude, you know, like, I have no idea, because this seems kind of out of left field.
Right. All of his other stuff is very like social, sort of systemic oriented, and then he comes out with this thing about hallucinogenic drugs and the origins of human consciousness and shit.
Yeah.
I'm just it's one of those things where it's like the idea is so strong to me.
No, it totally is.
I'm like, my man was on to something for sure, and he
Yes.
just bungled it. But like, fuck, is this such a fun idea?
Yes.
I appreciate the attempt. I definitely appreciate the attempt. I think the execution was fumbled, like you said.
Like, and it's also everything, and that's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
You know, execution is everything, dude.
It is.
I mean,
everything.
one sort of worry, I guess, that I had reading it, or question. So I don't have a ton of experience with, maybe other people can speak to this, with these sorts of drugs or whatever. I did mushrooms for the first time this summer, and it was fucking sick.
What did you experience, first of all?
Well,
I've done mushrooms. I've never done acid, but I've done mushrooms.
okay, yeah,
See, I've done acid and not mushrooms, so.
okay.
I've done none of it because I know I'd cut my hands off and like put them.
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't, dude. Well, no.
Paul would turn into an amoeba after like a little tiny bit of acid. He would turn into an amoeba.
And has anyone done like LSD or anything related, like in that family?
Well, that's acid.
LSD is acid. Yeah. I'm telling you, I don't know anything about this shit.
I've never done DMT. I've never done.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Salvia.
the Clockwork Elves. Or
My
something.
brother, shout outs, is a big DMT advocate, and
Hell yeah, dude! Shouts out.
shout out. But
that's the-
brother. You have to tell me off.
I can't say their
Paul,
name
chill.
here. Yeah.
I want to know.
But I don't know how much of it he's done, but I know he's interested in it. But you know, one of the things, like, I guess I was curious. One of the things I was thinking about was the like faithfulness of some of this description, which is rich and kind of interesting and whatever, about some of these trips that he goes on. Like, for example, like there's the trip where he goes on, it's like the second or third one, or I forget what Matt said, the ontogenic de-evolutionary experience or whatever.
Dematuration.
Dematuration. I'm sorry, dematuration.
Come on. Did you even read it?
The man did his research.
Yeah,
Where-
you're
Controller
supposed to
even
have a
plugged in?
PhD, right? Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Where he, like, the hallucination is he's like an early, you know, primate ancestor of man, and he winds up kind of like both hunting and running as himself, and then he winds up like eating himself, basically. And
Yeah.
this is sort of like the first big break where the hallucinations start to make their way into material reality, because he shows back up in the tank with a bunch of blood all over his face and stuff. And
Right.
at first they're like, oh, he bit his tongue or he had a seizure or whatever, but they can't find any evidence of that. And he's like, no, dude, it's the blood from myself that I was eating or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess I was just sort of wondering about like how faithful some of these descriptions are to what other people experience on these sorts of drugs. And like one of the things that struck me, I guess I'll end here.
Okay.
But like one of the things that struck me is that like when I hear people talk about these drugs, because I know people who are deep into all of these hallucinogenic drugs, is this concept of like ego death, right? Where you sort of start to feel like your individuality is kind of bleeding into the rest of reality and it becomes less kind of significant. He doesn't learn any of those lessons over the course of this book at all. Like he comes out of these theoretically like hyper extreme hallucinogenic experiences and just like, yeah, let's just jot down some scientific notes about this. And it just felt not particularly faithful to what the experience seemingly would actually be like.
Yeah. You want to go, Dan?
You can go first.
No, I haven't gone deep. I can't speak to the real psychonauts out there, but manifesting blood. Obviously, that's fake. That's not something that happens. And the ego death thing. Yeah, I know. It's what's funny to about reading this book in this time is in the 21st century is like it's almost now become a little bit cringe. The whole hallucinogens culture, and obviously Paul's got no one can see this, but Paul's got Joe Rogan with Jimi Hendrix pulled up in the background, and I think that's
Presley
and Elvis Presley. And I think that's perfect. It's like Joe Rogan is part of this process where it's just like every fucking dimwit, fucking loser, faux, like profound person is like, microdose and like. Whatever, and it's like, for whatever therapeutic effects it may have on like people with PTSD and this or that, like, I don't know. It's just funny to like discuss it in the era where it's
you can even see it in like
it's not countercultural in the least,
right?
Dude, no, you're exactly right. It's totally commodified now. Like, I mean, now they have like sensory deprivation, like float tanks or whatever. Like, you can go pay $40 and float in a tank for an hour. Like it's like a massage.
It's commodified retro nostalgia almost.
Well,
have any of you guys done the float tank thing?
No,
when I was in Minneapolis, there was a bunch there, but they were like $120 for like a half hour.
Yeah, but it's like
I want to do suicide suspensions. That's what I want to do.
I don't even know what that is.
What is that? Is that when you like hang by your nipples?
Is that like piercings?
No, you're close.
Shit?
Yeah, but it's piercings in your back and they suspend you.
No,
body mod, dude. Good. Body modification.
Hellraiser, The Cell, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
Well,
The
but
Cell's
it's like
a fucking great movie. I love it.
That's a good movie.
But it's
awesome.
also like all of that stuff, like you were saying, it's not only been commodified, but and I think this is probably a legacy of some of the benefits that were discovered, like you said, Matt, for people with PTSD and other sorts of other types of mental illnesses, which, as far as I can tell, are probably real, and that's probably like legit. And I'm all for going down that road for those people. But all of this other shit, microdosing and these like, you can go and pay and go in a fucking tank or whatever. It's all wrapped up in this kind of like self-care bullshit.
Yeah. Yes, dude.
Yes. Where it's like a complete betrayal of the initial intention of a lot of these things, which is to sort of challenge your limits and push you to like see the world in a new way. And now it's just like, a warm blanket.
Yeah,
it's
he would probably think of it as
stick it to the patriarchy by paying $80 an hour to float in this tank.
Yeah.
For self-care or whatever. And it's like, what?
Yeah, they shouldn't call microdose. They should call microdosing sissy dosing.
Soy dosing.
Micro penis dosing.
I mean, there's also like, there's also the notion that it's just the process of kind of like alienating yourself from your own perspective, and therefore it's just like you feel like you're getting these ideas beamed from God, confirming your thoughts, but it's like just the fact that you are alienated from your own, thoughts, and therefore it sounds like someone else confirming everything you already knew or something like that. You know what I mean?
To be honest, though, I'm actually, like, for someone who hasn't done LSD or mushrooms, because I'm terrified, I would actually try, like, I've thought about trying to microdose. I just want a little bit, you know? It sounds like a good idea.
No, you should do
Yeah.
it, but it's just because it's fun. Dude.
Right.
It's not gonna. I really like the whole like spiritual angle on this stuff. It's like maybe you can sort of like kickstart a perceptual change that'll help, but like the idea that it's necessary or whatever, it always just seemed like stupid.
Yeah, and I mean, I can just talk a little bit about, because someone asked me what happened when I did the mushrooms.
Me.
Because I was kind of in Paul's camp before. It was a mix. It was like, this is kind of cringe, and like my background is in philosophy, and I was always of the sort of like had this lingering like, oh, if you need fucking mushrooms to like think deeply and have important experiences, then you're just like weak-minded or some shit. Or I don't know, you know, I can't articulate the exact thought, but it was that, and also the fear that like I'm gonna fucking try to hug a fucking Mack truck that's coming at me or something, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I can confirm for you at least, Paul, that it's not that at all. Like, granted, I didn't have like some heroic level dose or anything, and I wasn't fucking like, you know, like going nuts. But it's a thing, and
but
it is not that.
I don't think I experienced ego death in the way that like is, I don't know, conventionally defined. But I will say that when I last took mushrooms, I took enough to the point where I forgot who I was, except for like, that's the best way I can describe it, is I forgot who I was except for like one thing about me.
Whoa.
And that was that like when the last time I took it, I was in school still. So the only thing that I remembered about myself was that I was a student. And like that was like the one anchor that I had.
Nice.
Like I couldn't remember who I was in
Right.
any like meaningful sense, except for the fact that I was a student. And that was like what I kept telling myself. I was like, I'm a student. And like, so I don't know if that's ego death, but like that
Sounds
was
like you were
for,
right
like,
on the edge, maybe.
yeah, for
Yeah.
like a good like 15, 20 minutes, I was like, I don't know who I am. Like, I don't know anything about who I am. Like that, you know, but
And then you grew hairs on your arms.
yeah, then I turned into a 4-foot fucking simian primate. No.
So all that shit is real. There's also just like synesthesia, like sort of cross wiring that happens.
Oh,
and
dude,
stuff.
that's
Oh, yeah,
definitely
dude.
real. Colors and touch were definitely becoming deeply associated when I was doing
Yeah.
it.
And that's just fun. Like that, you know, it's fun to kind of create an alien experience like that for yourself. You know, even if it's just
Yeah, and like you can,
artificially. You know.
you can like sort of like interpret it spiritually if you want, but that's not like necessary. You know, like
Right.
you could also interpret it through a different lens. It probably
And
just
if you need to
depends
do
on, like,
drugs constantly to maintain the fervor of your spirituality, that's bad.
yeah, you're probably not that spiritual if you need to do that, you know?
And I
Yeah,
think that
that-
was
I don't know. I'm kind of like on the fence with that still, though, too.
How so?
I don't know. Just thinking about like, there's a lot of things that we ingrained in our lives that is just like a part of society now. Like people drinking coffee, that's a drug, and it's like everyone does it.
Paul's Mormon now.
Mormon or
I don't know.
or drugs are all legal. What is it?
I think drugs should be all be legal.
All legal.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, dude.
I don't
No,
know.
but I
I don't know, I
get
just
your
don't really-
point, Paul.
I don't really have an issue with someone indoctrinating any substance into their lives if they have like a benefit from it, really.
Well, and I think it
So if
gets,
people are gonna microdose, I'm like, fucking do it.
and it also gets back to
Yeah.
a little bit of something that Matt said earlier, and that's in the book, which is that, you know, there's this like, and I think this is an interesting thing the book addresses a little bit, which is that, right? Like there's this kind of hard distinction between like religion and science that the book is trying to like break down or explore a little bit.
Right.
But you know, the mechanism that it uses to explore that question is something that's already been in most human religions forever, which is like substance use. And all of the sort of theories about early Christianity and where there are like substances involved and all of that stuff. So I think it's trying to break down some of those historical mythologies a little bit as well. And the fact that it does so explicitly in terms of the main character having had religious visions as a child maybe is a little heavy-handed, but I do think it's an important question.
It's definitely more filmic. The rapidity with which he sort of states his religious priors and then gets to the sciencey part and then back to the religious priors. Like, yeah.
It's very heavy-handed, yeah. But I would also say it's very filmic, you're right. But it does seem like he wrote it with one of those giant pencils that you saw in, like, 5th grade. It's that heavy-handed.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, those giant pencils were so tight, dude.
Yeah, those
They were
were
sick.
fucking sweet. I want one now.
I want one now, too. You guys should put them in your virtual classrooms.
I'd like to introduce a potentially very depressing thought that
Go off,
occurred to
King.
me while I was
Yes.
reading. Okay, so I was trying to think of like, so this was obviously sort of dated. It was, late 70s when it was written, right? And I was trying to think of like, who would be these type of people today who are doing this kind of thing. And I could only think of like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos who are trying to like, they're trying to set up like labs that research immortality or whatever,
Yeah.
like they're trying to live forever.
Human senescence.
Yeah, and like that's like the contemporary counterpart that I came up with today. Do you guys think that that's an accurate counterpart? Do you think that it's the same thing? Like, what do you think about that? Am I crazy or?
I think
what?
there's a formalization of the avant-garde kind of groundbreaking scientist archetype within Silicon Valley in particular. Like, I
Yeah.
think, like it's a meme now, the whole like DMT fucking startup person, right? Like
Yeah.
throwing up after an ayahuasca trip and reinventing slavery via the internet. But
Yeah.
like, so I think you're right in a way. It's like, but now it's like this again, modern, nostalgic almost reification of people like Lillian Leary, and it's like now you're formalizing it, and they're an archetype or they're a memory, and it's like I'm trying to be this person, the fucking disruptor, like the disruption, blah blah blah, and it's just like now it's just another played out kind of concept enfolded into what is ultimately just
and it's
boring,
like
boring capitalism.
And like if I were to give this book like a generous gloss, it would be like, oh, these researchers are actually trying to like do this research for like the public good or whatever, like that would be like the most generous interpretation. But like the Bezoses and the Elon Musks of today, I don't really trust that they're trying to do it for public good. They're just doing it for they're doing it out of their own desire to live forever, like an individual sort of like impulse,
Which is why the ego death thing is funny when it comes to hallucinogens, because it's like Jessup's ego is only expanding as he's
Yes,
as he's
exactly.
moving forward.
That's
through
what I was
this.
trying to get at earlier.
And in fact, taking primacy in the fact that he's literally manifesting his own consciousness.
Well, and throughout the whole thing, he remains obsessed with like, this research is going to win me a Nobel Prize, right?
Yeah.
He calls himself like, he says like, I'm the like sort of like he's like the next Einstein or the next Newton or whatever. Like that's what he keeps conceptualizing himself as that.
Yeah, and so it kind of like runs counter to the characterization of like, oh, he's just obsessed with this like abstract scientific world. It's like, no, he's not. He has a lot of like material, real world interests. He's just a dick to his wife.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
But
I mean, maybe he is more like Jeff Bezos than.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is kind of just like a Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk type, I guess.
Well, and I think to that point, like, and I don't know what you think about this, Paul, or if you have anything to say about this topic, but we just last week we read Don DeLillo's Cosmopolis, and one of the kind of overriding thematic interests of that book is the sort of like singularity and like the self kind of like dissolving into data and these kind of like electronic points in this like worldwide system or whatever. And it is almost religious in that way that the main character of that book talks about it. And I think that kind of is a bridge between this book and what you're talking about, Daniel, the sort of like new era kind of like ego death in quotes, where your individuality is dissolved into like some data system of ones and zeros or whatever. But you really want to do it because you don't want to die.
Well, also, just like I'm trying to think of like the people who are doing the most experimental, crazy research today. And it's like, you know, it's not Timothy Leary types anymore. It's not like people at Harvard. It's fucking Silicon Valley. It's fucking Elon Musk and Bezos. They're going to Mars. They're doing the like immortality stuff. Like that's where all the craziest, most experimental research is being done.
Did you guys watch the show Devs?
No, you keep talking about it.
It's just exactly about this topic.
Yeah.
I won't do spoilers, but it's exactly about this issue.
But
I
it's
just
become
I just fucking hate Silicon Valley, and I hate
it
Yeah.
too. Honestly, I hate it
people.
so much that I can't even follow up on what's current within the world of it because I hate it so much. I can't even like, I just don't even think about it. It's like
it seems like
it's
like a different country to me. It's like a people that I'm just like I don't even know who. Like I have nothing in common with you. You know?
Yeah, like there were
Well,
some
you don't.
people I went to school with in Baltimore that ended up like working for Facebook, like right out of school,
Yeah.
and in school when I knew them, they were already like kind of going towards that Silicon Valley mindset that was kind of still like in the Facebook beginning years, you know.
Yeah.
Do you know what they ended up
and
doing?
I hated them. Working at Facebook doing something.
You
I'm
don't
not
remember?
sure exactly what.
Like,
no.
Do you don't remember what they would like sort of idly talk about in college?
Not really. I just remember like being in the next room and they just had this group of just horrible design people that were just talking about how Helvetica is going to change the world. You know, those types of people.
They love that documentary, Helvetica.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
shit, dude.
that was big.
That was their shit right there.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I can't really. I just check out when it comes to those types of people. I just check out completely.
Oh yeah, it's thick Mark, thick kabuki Mark.
Yeah.
Is his face completely
his
covered
fucking-
with?
his butt? What is
Sunscreen.
it? Yeah.
It's sunscreen.
Yeah, I
What
knew
a
He's not. He's
horrible
not
human
human,
being.
dude. He's
No.
definitely a fucking robot.
lizard robot.
It's
Yeah,
definitely
it's
the worst part about our world right now.
What's funny to me is
Our
that
American
like,
world.
you know, I know DMT and all this shit I was just saying is like at this point now like so counter cultural that it's like boring and not interesting.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, what we have now, and the just sort of like bottoming out of like the psychonaut kind of plumbing the depths of consciousness experiments, regardless of how much they were utilized for private interests or military interests or whatever you want to say. There is now even a nostalgia, like I was saying before, for that kind of thing, because now it's just sort of like, can I please be a robot that lives forever and just launch myself into space? And like those are the innovations, and then it's just like otherwise it's like supply chains or self-driving cars or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a complete like. I mean, I don't know. I think there are people who think there's some sort of connection or whatever, but it feels like a betrayal of kind of the original ideology of that whole kind of movement.
Yeah.
Not that I maybe not. Maybe there was always
Well,
that.
it's like Daddy Marx famously said, history repeats itself. First is tragedy, then is farce.
Yeah.
And that process has just sped up.
So like now, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I would say, I guess the initial wave of interest in like psychedelics or whatever was tragic, but I do think that the second time around now is kind of farcical.
Yeah, for sure.
In that, like, if we're saying like Joe Rogan is like the avatar of the modern day like
Right.
psychonaut culture or whatever, it's like, yeah, that's goofy. Like, this guy with a fucking $100 million contract for his podcast, you know.
Well, what's funny is like even in the book, right? Like we're talking about the hangover period of this whole thing.
That's true.
Yeah. But even Paddy Chayefsky in 1978 was like, "This is cringe." Like he even said it. Like the book itself is like, no one gives a fuck about John C. Lilly style isolation tanks anymore. It's lame. It's played out. No scientist is actually interested in this any longer. So like, it's funny that there was still like, while in the midst of writing even this book, he was it was already like, there's already nostalgia and kind of a dated quality to the subject matter he was writing about.
That's true. Yeah. Like he is. Yeah, you're right. He's very self-conscious about like saying like this is dated, you know?
So it feels like this book is maybe historically important in that it is the, you know, maybe it's the final gravestone of that era, right? Like it was already dated sort of scientifically or academically, because for a while isolation chambers and all that shit was an academically viable line of research. It was something that people thought was interesting and worth pursuing. But yeah, it's that's an important point, Matt, that even in the writing it was past
I looked
its
into
time.
it. I looked into it, and like sensory deprivation apparently in a lot of the academic research has a huge effect on like treating various, like we've talked about this, but like PTSD and like anxiety and shit. Like it actually is, it's been shown empirically to have like a huge effect on like treating that stuff. But like, yeah, using it as this sort of mechanism for, you know, accessing, you know, spiritual truth, like, you know, I don't know about that, you know.
Or workshopping an app.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of those things that you could see a company like Google or whatever installing, like the same way they have like beanbag fucking chairs and shit. It's like, go to the sensory deprivation room for 20 minutes and figure out how you're gonna fucking code this app that helps people find their next favorite necklace or whatever.
Well, it's also cool because like it's funny as like a symbol too, because like, you know, we talked about like academic research methods being sort of a big theme of this book. And like the whole game of academic research is like isolating variables, you know, like being able to control for confounding variables so you can study the one variable in question. And like the whole idea of an isolation chamber or a sensory deprivation chamber is like you are literally controlling for all possible sensory variables. Like you're eliminating all of your sensory inputs so that you are totally just controlled for like one specific thing, you know? And so like in that sense, it is like the ultimate, like, you know, control, like variable control mechanism, because you've eliminated all of your senses.
Well, in the book, like the drug is the basis of all of the 2-year scientific research that Chayefsky did by basically being able to utilize scientific terminology with some level of confidence in order to like Michael Crichton sort of level describe like what's going on physiologically, so that eventually the scientists could be like, okay, we've described all of that to the best of our ability, and therefore like we've eliminated everything that isn't, or that is the drug, and now we can sort of pinpoint consciousness itself.
It's just like the only thing left is just the drug. Like I can't see anything, I can't hear anything, I can't feel anything. Like I'm weightless. Like I don't know. Has anyone ever been? I think I asked this already. Has anyone ever been in one of these like floating things?
No, my friend has though, and said he really likes it.
So they put like I read about it. I've never been in it, but it's like they put enough salt in it to where it's like 10 inches of water, which doesn't sound like a lot, but there's enough salt that you're just completely floating, and they like dial in the temperature to where it's like the exact same temperature as your skin.
Right.
And so like, yeah, essentially you're supposed to just feel nothing. And like, it really fucks with your perception of time apparently. And like you spend
which
an
he
hour
mentions in the book,
Yeah, you spend an hour in there, but it feels like 5 fucking hours or some
Right.
shit.
Apparently, like if you can either do like 30 minutes or an hour when you go to a place that's like in a city or whatever, and if you do it for like 30 minutes, apparently you don't get that much of an effect at all.
Okay.
So it
This
needs
is
to be
like-
like a
because
little
so
bit
I-
longer
like-
time.
I've been going to the gym recently on campus.
Go
and then
off, go off.
Afterwards, I've been sitting in the sauna for like 10 minutes, dude. Sitting in a
Sauna's nice.
sauna, 170-degree sauna for 10 minutes feels like fucking an hour, dude. Like, I'm like dying in there, dude. I'm like sweating. I'm like, fuck, has it been 10 minutes yet?
I actually cannot go into
But
saunas.
it feels
Just turning
fucking
into a
great
monkey?
afterwards.
No, dude, saunas are like one of my biggest phobias. I've seen a few horror movies where someone just gets locked in a sauna, and I'm just always petrified of the
That is
door
like,
locking.
They just turn up the temperature.
Claustrophobic
And
type.
It
kill
scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's like
I can't
impossible,
use
but-
saunas.
Dude, I'm all
no
about
locks on
it.
the door.
I started using it over the summer when there was no students here, and it was tight because I was just in there alone. But now there's like students in there all the time, and I have to like they all try to make small talk, you know, and so I'm just like in
People
there.
making small talk in a freaking sauna is the worst.
Cringe.
I know because I'm sweating my fucking ass off, and they're like, so what's up, man? And I'm like,
How are your
dude,
balls?
I don't know, dude.
I remember when I used to go
Hot
to the gym
enough
in
for you?
Minneapolis, and there was like a big sauna there, and like this LA Fitness, and if you went in there, like one time I went in there, and there was like so many people in there, and there was one fucking Gen Zer wearing like shoes still, just watching TikTok videos, and everyone in there is just like not a Gen Zer, and this one guy was just like, what are you doing? Why are you watching that? And the kid just like ignored him. I was like, I hate this generation. Take your fucking shoes off, you stupid punk.
I did want to just touch briefly on Matt's point about Michael Crichton, which I think is an interesting comparison because one of the things Crichton is like most well known for is riding that line between like science fiction and like legitimate scientific plausibility.
Yeah.
Right? Like all of the science that went into Jurassic Park, which he obviously spins into something like, you
He's
know,
a Harvard MD, dude.
yeah, exactly. Which he obviously spins into something that's grander than what we have access to
It's,
now.
like, actually plausible, yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like, or even some of his other books, like Congo, or I forget the title of the one that's about like nanotech. Prey, I think it's called.
Prey, dude.
Great
Also,
book.
Timeline
Yes, Timeline.
about
Or-
quantum mechanics.
Or
Which
even-
is
in
just
this
a big.
book.
You're a Crichton head, dude.
I
Dude, I read-
am
I-
kind of a Crichton head. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, Crichton is
Gabe,
tight. Yeah.
I'm with you, bro. Stephen King and Crichton were kind of my shit for a while.
Yeah, or even the Andromeda Strain,
Forget
right?
it.
Like,
Sir.
and I feel like this book, for all the research that went into it and all the terminology that Chayefsky uses, like it falls on the wrong side of that line that Crichton so often winds up on the right side of.
That's a good point.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because-
it tries to do the
Chayefsky-
Crichton thing, but it goes on. It fails. you know?
No, because it doesn't try and do the Crichton thing. Chayefsky wants to be better than that.
And to do
And
some
that is
big
the
spiritual philosophical point. And of course, Crichton makes philosophical points, but it's
I mean, I remember reading Jurassic Park and being, as a kid, and being like, where are my dinosaurs? You know what I mean? Like, that's like how effective it was. I was like, get the frog and the amber shit and like make me a stegosaurus, please.
This was like I read Andy Weir, The Martian, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and like that was the big thing about Andy Weir was like, oh, this is like very scientifically like accurate. Like this is actually what would happen if someone was stranded on Mars or whatever. And I admit it was extremely compelling because of that. Like the scientific detail was like probably the star of that book. you know?
Hard sci-fi.
And that's the
Yeah,
issue is
exactly.
that in this book, the scientific detail, which there is a fuck ton of, no question,
Too much.
too
of
much. It becomes a distraction rather than a motivating force.
Does anyone have like a great a great example of some sort of passage where they are throwing way too much, you know?
Or did anyone
Data at you?
underline that like 25-letter scientific word that started with a P? Remember that?
No.
That was insane. There's a huge word in there.
there are multiple points where it's like
Yeah, I think I remember
an
that, Paul.
absolute like I researched so much and I can't let this go to waste. Let me
Yes.
vomit this at you kind of data dump of
Yeah, I know what you're
terminology.
talking about.
He should have researched exclamation points and when to use them and when not to. Because there was like 5,000 in his book.
This is the classic. This is the classic Paul perspective that I love about
Yeah.
the Spine Cracker Pod, dude.
Well,
I have a tough time getting over bad writing. Or writing. I mean, this is legitimate, horrible bad writing, in my opinion.
I think you're yes.
And,
No,
I
you're
would
right.
agree.
You're right. You're right about that.
Totally.
Because to me, it was like someone trying to write like Mozart, like a Mozart symphony with an out of tune violin and piano.
Yeah, it's like a 9-year-old who's wearing his dad's suit. You know, it's like it doesn't fit right. You know.
Yeah.
It's like the lack of confidence is palpable in the amount of scientific jargon.
Yeah.
And then like at the same, because it's like you use only as much as you need, which is I think what Crichton does very fucking well.
Yes.
And understands that like the concept is what's at stake here, but even with the cosmic horror stuff, Chayefsky bungles because like one of the critiques of the old cosmic horror stuff, the Machins and the Lovecrafts and whatever, is one of the critiques that ended up being a strength was like they're describing something that isn't there, or like there's almost a negative quality to the descriptions. It's always like what this is not like or whatever.
Yes. Yes.
But then when you get to the parts that should be scary, right? Like where we have the ontogenetic dematuration process, where he's sort of like his skin's bubbling and he's like turning it, he's flicking in and out of being like different, like
He's becoming monk.
He's becoming monk and even something before monk.
Yes.
And it's kind of supposed to be gross, and the Ken Russell, sort of take on it is way better. It ends up being dry and like disappointing. It's like
yeah.
One of the
all that-
biggest. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
the set piece is where he's like morphing and it's all like scary and like there's finally this crisis with his physical body. It's like they're probably the most boring portions of the book, even more boring than the scientific jargon stuff.
Yeah, he tries to make that the climax, and it's like I'm not invested in this.
Well,
Yeah.
it happens like abruptly, like the transformation scene when he finally becomes a monkey. It happens quick. I remember being like put off by how quick a turn it was, and then it goes right into like the chase scene of him being a monkey and running out of the hospital or whatever, and then going into the zoo.
Yeah, like eating the dogs or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it just
fighting
like,
the gang of dogs.
that's not what you should have focused on, like him running around being a monkey. I mean, you needed to focus on the experience he was having and being inside that body. Mm-hmm. And I think his mind was just focused on how it would be in a film, and it would have been more interesting to see, because if you're in that mindset, you just, that's all you are thinking about is
That's the
seeing
filmmaker's
scene.
responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It was just not the correct medium.
Yeah, exterior night, monkey, and then you're done. But instead, you have to write about it, and you're like, fuck, dude, he
So what do you
runs
think?
around.
What do you think that quality is in Crichton? Is it like wisdom that he has, or is it like what kind of virtue is that where he's able to execute well this thing that Chayefsky just failed to do? Do you think?
I think it's what Matt said earlier. I think, like idea wise, I think this book is like on the level, right? Like this could be a great science fiction novel.
Love the
it's
attempt.
got the
Love it.
ideas, it's got the concepts. But I think, like Matt said earlier, it's like only use as much as you need to use of that science to create the plausibility, to create the sort of interest, and then just write a fucking good story. And Chayefsky did the opposite of that. I gotta click one more button. Now we're back. That's my classic move. Is like I think we're recording and we're not. Anyway, we're back. We had some technical difficulties. So
Yes. So we might not be able to do a perfectly seamless continuation of what we were talking about before.
Right.
But I think it was just something about the difference between Crichton, as Paul said, being a novelist, and Chayefsky being just not one, a
Yeah.
screenwriter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just knowing the game a little bit better, knowing the craft, and knowing exactly the right proportion of semi-plausible, sciencey sounding science to pepper into a strong concept.
Yeah, I mean, Crichton is a genius storyteller. I think that's what Matt said. Matt said earlier, like, I think what differentiates maybe is like, yeah, he's just like a really talented storyteller, you know?
Yeah, and I don't think like you can be really talented in one avenue and it doesn't often translate to another. I would say like it can. Some people are multifaceted, but
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
even branching from what seems to be like it should be an easy or more relatable transition from screenwriting to a novel, it's still such a vastly different medium that you can totally just fall flat on your dick.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Oh, that reminds me, one of my favorite weird sexual scenes. Emily comes back from Africa and she's there with the kids and he's like so happy and he's like smiling and he's like, I love you. And then he just like writes in there that he has a giant erection.
Yes.
You guys remember that? I was like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah, they literally say he has an erection the size of a house. I remember that exact line.
It's like he
compares it to a
family.
house. Yeah.
What
And
the hell?
it's just like it's so awkward. That isn't
Dude, it's a
perfect
comment on
example.
domesticity.
But
Yeah.
but that is a perfect example of like the awkwardness of story writing versus screenwriting, because he's like as big as a house and he's fully torqued. He's so hard.
So
So
hard.
hard.
And then in literally the next sentence, he's like putting his daughter on his lap.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
just like, bruh,
Yeah.
you need to think about this. Okay.
Yeah, you might want to just like go take a lap real quick before you,
Yeah.
you put your daughter on your lap. Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah.
If he was that horny too, like he's just walking around the airport with a giant house penis. Like what? Matt, like you're it was ridiculous.
Yeah. He's in sweatpants. It's so visible.
That's gnarly.
Do you think you can get hard inside of a sensory deprivation tank? Or is it
He
like
said
it's
people
so-
are coming.
No,
It's so-
doesn't he have an orgasm the first time he's in one at the very beginning?
Yeah, you're right. He does.
People
I
are
was
busting
just thinking it's so the whole point of it is to be so frictionless that I feel like it would make it hard to get hard, you know? Like there's nothing to like, you know, rub
and-
against.
Dude,
mental.
counterintuitively, the best nut is the frictionless nut.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. You didn't know this?
No, I'm a virgin, which I saw a New York Post tweet today where it was talking about some writer who wants to change people, or claiming that people should no longer say virginity and should instead say sexual debut. Should be the new term for losing your virginity. So I'm going to start saying that from now on. You know,
Damn.
That's even more charged.
Debut.
Yeah,
My
I feel like
sexual
that adds like more pressure to it.
I know,
Yeah.
right? It's stupid. It's totally stupid.
Hey, I can't wait for you to help me allow me to premiere my sexual sort of nature.
Yeah.
Please lay out the red carpet for my penis.
Invite my penis to the Met Gala.
Yeah.
Hey, well, listen.
Which is your Regine.
Yes. Let's take a little cue from the end of this book. Listen, the pain cannot be described. I was in it, Emily. I was in that ultimate moment of terror that is the beginning of life. I can tell you what it is. It is nothing. Simple, hideous nothing. The final truth of all things is that there is no final truth. Truth is what's transitory.
Damn.
So I hope that's a lot for you to chew on, audience. If you can think about that.
Derrida.
Yeah. Hey, listen. In other words, the truth of the matter is Is there truth and does it matter?
Nice. Well put.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
You know, Operation Ivy once said, "All I know is that I don't know.
Oh, damn.
All I know is that I
Let's
don't know
go.
nothing."
Yeah.
No one has ever said that before. I don't think.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yes, definitely
No.
not what I was about to say.
All right. Well, we'll transition maybe into the end of show segments.
Yes.
We have a new one, Dan. This is unfair to spring on you, but we'll give you time. This is a new segment that Paul premiered a couple episodes ago, which is what was the best, and this is an interesting book for this, but what is the best Scrabble word from this book that you found? This can be a book, it doesn't have to be particularly good for Scrabble, a word you didn't know, a word that you thought was funny or interesting, et cetera, but that's what we're calling it. So
I'll go first on that.
okay,
I just picked my words just now because I forgot to do it.
I wrote one down, so I do have one.
My word is ski because it has a lot of good letters. But my second choice was bitch.
Okay.
Wait, okay. Actually, to be fair, bitch is a decent Scrabble word.
It's pretty good.
B
is,
B is 3 points, I is 1, T is 1, but H is 4.
Yeah.
Wait,
so
what was the other one?
Bitch.
Ski?
Ski. It's pretty good,
Like
right?
SKI?
No, I thought I had more points. It
No,
doesn't.
I
I'm
is
gonna go with
1.
bitch.
I is a bad Scrabble word. Ski
Okay.
is not a good Scrabble word. Okay.
Bitch. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Gabe?
Matt, did you have one? Okay. So mine is I forget where this is in the book. I could just search it right now. But they're talking about like I forget the exact context, but I think it's when he's in one of his hallucinations and he's talking about kind of these shapes he's seeing, and the word is cromlech, Cromlech, which apparently means a megalithic, apparently it's Welsh in origin, and it's a megalithic tomb consisting of a large flat stone laid on upright ones.
Huh.
Nice.
So
that's a good one.
yeah,
That's the Stonehenge kind of thing.
yeah, kind of like it's kind of like a Stonehenge type.
What was it again?
Type thing. Cromlech, Cromlech.
Menhir is good too.
Yeah, it's in the same passage exactly. Yeah. So there's a bunch of points in that one. 3, 3, 3, 4.
Yeah, that is a great Scrabble word.
Yeah,
Damn.
That is good.
Thank you.
Cromlech.
Thank you.
I got aliquot,
Ooh.
which is ALIQUOT.
Nice. Anything with a Q, that's money.
Yeah.
I saw the Q there and I was like, this has to be worth.
And what does that one mean?
Oh yeah.
It means a portion of a larger whole, especially a sample taken for chemical analysis or other treatment.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Portion of a larger whole.
Mm-hmm.
What a weird area that is.
Yeah.
Abstract.
I don't know.
Like,
It's used like 3 times.
Where's a portion of a whole?
It's
It's
just
like
funny.
8WHOLE, not like
Oh, okay.
right. Okay.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
a physical hole.
Yeah. A part of a void. Yeah, no, it's not that.
That would be plausible for this book though.
100% something he learned, I guarantee you, because it's all part of that like portion where he's like, they're like injecting the drug into rats and like fucking chopping the rats up into a goo and like running that through a force field and stuff. And he
yes.
keeps calling it an aliquot, what he has of the rats. And I was like, what the hell? He uses it like 3 times. So
That's a David
Good
Foster
word.
Wallace word.
yeah, fucking.
I mean, there
100%.
were moments of this that felt like David Foster Wallace when
It's kind of true. I'm actually reading
Yeah.
Infinite Jest right now. And
A little bit of that.
Are you reading the endnotes?
Yeah, I'm an academic, dude. I read endnotes as I go.
Yeah, I mean, I've read it, and it's I mean, the endnotes are where he does all the fucking like scientific, math
Yes.
jargon shit.
Yeah.
Some of them are funny, and then I'm just like, I don't know. I do get why people get pissed off at it. It's like, I know what these drugs are, man. I don't need an endnote to tell me that Pfizer made it, really.
You know what I was also thinking of just real quick is that this was like the reverse sort of concept of naked lunch, where
Ooh.
the naked lunch is like all him just being like, I was fucking tripping and I was in the interzone and there was a fucking lithe boy made, and he came Quicksilver that turned into eyeballs that floated into a, and he had flippers that were kind of, just some insane shit. And then at the very end, it's like dry scientific analysis of drug addiction.
Yeah. All right, Dan, did we give you enough time to find a word?
Yeah, I'm only picking this because I didn't know what it meant. I don't know if it's actually a good Scrabble word, but it's when he's in the tank or whatever, turning into a monkey, and it describes his face as prognathic. Prognathic is the word. It says, but interestingly enough, because I looked this up,
that is a good one.
Prognathic chinless jaw.
Makes no sense.
I know. I looked it up, and prognathic means that it's like protruding.
Yes.
And chinless is obviously not. So it's like that doesn't make any sense. Those
You
are
use
opposites.
it wrong. Dude, I'm so
That
glad you
is
brought this up. I
weird.
would have fucking forgot, but I was like,
Yeah.
and you know where I heard the word prognathic first?
Where?
Infinite Jest.
Oh shit.
Oh shit! It comes full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he just like is totally trying to just use big words to sound whatever, but he's using them incorrectly.
Prognathic
So that brings up your
chinless,
perfect
yeah.
analogy of a 9-year-old.
It's like
in a
jumbo
suit.
shrimp, dude.
Yeah, dude.
That would be a decent Scrabble word.
Yeah,
P,
prognathic.
C,
Yeah, it's got the
H,
G. Yeah,
the
yeah.
G's not. Yeah,
You need a lot of letters though. It would be tough to get.
It would be tough to get down. Well, how
Yeah.
many letters is that? Prognatht.
Age.
10.
10. Yeah, you'd get
Yeah.
mad
Yeah.
points for.
But I mean,
you
if someone
get 50 for 7 or more, so
if someone had pro already on the board, then,
right,
you
or
know,
even
but
Prague.
Prague.
Yeah.
Mhm.
True that.
Hell yeah.
Or
Also,
thick.
just be a nice
thick with
flex.
one C.
Thick.
Slim
Yeah.
thick.
I'm gonna add progna to your thick.
Yeah. Even though it should have 2 C's, and that's
Yeah.
allowable.
That's a good like Tinder profile that I should use.
I feel like
I'm
there are types of women who are thick but not totally thick, and those
Right.
women should just get the 1C.
The 1C.
Right. But
Yeah.
arguably, though, prognathic would be a good word to apply to a big ass.
That's true. Yeah, it protrudes, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm gonna prescribe 2 cc's to this woman's freaking rear end.
Oh, your bosom seemed to be prognathic.
Yeah.
Good. All right, that's a good one. Nice. All right, now next
Harry Potter.
segment, the fan favorite.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a monkey, Harry.
You're a monkey, Harry. You're a hairy monkey.
So this is what's it called? What's the segment called?
We just did read
book.
another book,
We literally just read another book
so you can't be mad.
because we're talking about Harry Potter. This is a
What?
segment where we put all the characters of note from the book we just read into their respective Harry Potter houses.
Oh yeah, I remember this segment.
You remember
yeah.
this?
Yeah.
You're a seasoned vet of this segment.
Hell yeah.
And you're on board. And it,
I this is a hilarious segment. This is very good. It's a good bit. Yeah.
so
All right. So where do we start here? I think there's probably 4 characters.
yeah,
There's-
Max.
Jessup and
Max,
Emily.
Jessup, Emily,
Yeah.
Parrish, and Rosenberg.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Wait, is Jessup's simian proto-human form a different character, or is that also Jessup? Because
It's him, dude. Obviously,
I think it's him.
it's
Alright,
him
alright.
from a.
If you have a plausible argument that they should be put in different houses, I'm open to hearing it.
I'll
I'm
think
gonna
on
make-
it.
He's
I'm
part
gonna
of
make
a.
the
He's part
monkey
of the
version.
chronology of his evolving into his current form, dude.
Yeah.
I just think that the monkey version of him is a squib. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Oh shit! All right.
Those are the guys who can't do magic. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they're duds. They're duds in the magical world.
But they're not.
They're
muggles.
not muggles.
They're born
No.
of magic users, but they themselves, for whatever reason, like Paul said.
God,
they're
that would be the
duds.
worst fucking thing.
Can
to
you
be, dude.
imagine?
Yeah, you're shooting.
You
blanks
have
out of your
magical
wand.
parents, but you don't get it like that. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
It would be
Kill
terrible.
yourself. Kill yourself, dude. Honestly.
Yeah, dude.
I was gonna say something that would not be allowed in the podcast, so I'm gonna bite my tongue.
Yeah, chill.
It was funny.
I like
though.
that you're
All right,
laughing
so-
at thinking about it.
All right, so let's start with Rosenberg.
Oh yeah.
Rosenberg
dude.
is go Dan.
Oh, easy Ravenclaw.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Ravenclaw.
Nerd extraordinaire. I mean, they're all kind of nerdy, so we're gonna have to figure out a different way to differentiate. But
Yes.
even still, like they're all Harvard, whatever. But he still seemed like, because he was the guy that was like constantly like, or wait, actually,
Well, Rosenberg
at the end,
is
was he the one
who's
that was like,
kind of-
wait?
No.
Okay, never
Well-
mind. Anyway, I still say Ravenclaw.
But Rosenberg's kind of the most. He buys in the most from the beginning, right?
Yeah,
He's like,
that's true.
yeah, let's fucking do this. This is cool. And he's an academic, but he seems like kind of like a vagabond also. Like he
Mhm.
doesn't have like a permanent academic post or
Yeah, he's
anything.
kind of a free agent.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
But he's down to like figure it out and get to the bottom of it. I agree. I think he's Ravenclaw.
My issue is I feel like most of these people are just different qualities of Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True,
Like Rosenberg definitely is. He has no skin in the game. He's not devolving. He's not dematurationing and ontogenetically. So he's able to be even the more all in because like there's he's got no skin in the game, dude.
Right.
Like just the accolades. That's all he
Yeah.
stands to sort of gain from.
He's also the Jewish one. Like, I mean, his name identifies him as the Jewish one. I don't know if that matters, but
Right. The
I don't know,
greedy
like
grant.
Jewish
He's talking
acad-
about grants.
yeah, Jewish academic is like a thing though. Like,
Oh,
I
definitely.
mean,
It's a trope.
you know,
Sure, yeah. Jessup is like, I would say he's Gryffindor.
oh yeah,
Ooh.
I agree with you on that. Hard agree, actually, because he's like he's centering himself. He's like
Isn't
he's
that
this kind of-
Slytherin though?
no, but I feel like Gryffindor is the most narcissistic of the houses actually, because they think of themselves
Paul's
as like
gonna
the
be
hero.
mad.
They think of themselves as the
Not mad, it's just
heroes.
wrong.
The heroes, and they're gonna like he's gonna bring this knowledge of the spiritual afterlife to the rest of humanity. Like that's, I don't know.
He says he's afraid of what's occurring finally, and that he's just at a lack of a turn. He's got no more choice at some point. He's at a turning point where he's willing to Jesus-like, which
Yeah,
is
he's a
truly
savior.
which is truly the parallel he draws.
I'm gonna go back to something that Daniel said earlier, which is that I actually think Jessup is more of like a Bezos Musk character than a Jesus character, which would make him a Slytherin slam dunk.
Ooh,
That's a good point. I
Slam
did say
dunk.
that. Yeah,
Slam
using my
dunk.
logic against me.
By your logic.
Damn, shit.
it's always
I
the
got
deadliest
owned.
poison.
Yes. The one you secrete.
Yeah.
Gabe just destroyed liberal snowflake.
Facts and logic.
Daniel.
Dude. Clip this. Yo, Twitch chat, clip this.
Yeah, damn Daniel. Let's drop that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
right,
would
fair
say he's borderline Ravenclaw Slytherin, but I'm leaning towards Slytherin too, because I think he's got like that Musk Messiah, which is not a Jesus Messiah complex. It's more of an
That's true.
individualistic type, like out for himself, out for my own answers.
He's
to
a
my own
Joseph
life.
Smith type. Yeah.
Yes, that's another good comparison.
Fair enough.
Matt, are you
I'm-
sticking to Gryffindor?
Yeah.
I think I'm still sticking just to be contrarian, but I take your points
Fair.
about Slytherin. I think those are
I think
basically correct.
everyone's doing a real good job.
Everyone,
Yeah, we're all just being. I'm just being diplomatic here.
Take a minute
you know?
and pat yourselves on the back. You're killing it.
So we got
Uh,
Emily.
Well, let's save Emily for last. Let's do Parrish,
Perish.
Mason Parrish.
Publish or perish. Academia, right?
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
Yeah.
He's
I'm confused on him.
I think Parrish and I'm gonna just say Emily as well are both Hufflepuff, but one's bad and Emily's good.
Yeah. So Hufflepuff, I get that. Where's it coming from? He's like Cucklepuff. He's
right.
Cucked to the academic standards, and
that's good. Yeah,
and
right.
like
he's only
obsessed
rule
with-
abiding because some, untold body of previous academics told him to follow the rules in this way.
But he is also traditional, like in a traditional sense, Hufflepuff, because how many times does he say to Jessup, I want nothing more to do with this, fuck this, and he comes back every single time.
It's kind of a Ravenclaw quality because he's curious. He has.
Well, does he do it because
Ravenclaw
he's
curiosity.
curious or because he's friends?
Right.
I think it's because he's scientifically curious. That's how I read it.
He's not disinterested in the way that the other two are, though. Like to the degree
Rosenberg, I think, doesn't give a shit. Like he would bail at any moment.
I only say he's Hufflepuff because he kind of is just like not that important in the story. He's kind of
Whoa.
I mean, that's just how J.K. Rowling set it up.
Shit.
Well,
Shots fired.
We take her content and lore and we build upon it because there's kind of bullshit in the stories.
Yeah. No, but I mean, he comes in late. He joins the team late, right?
Relatively.
The only thing I remember about him is they described him as like a 6'2", bearded and like, I don't like. He's just like a big burly guy.
Yes.
He's a bear.
Yeah.
I think he might be from. Where's he from in the book? He's from like a Appalachian state, I think.
Maybe. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, appearances alone
interesting.
make you Hufflepuff.
No. I was just like,
Thanks for keeping us on track, Paul.
Yeah,
he's a Hufflepuff because he's a stickler for the rules, and that's kind of what he remains, right?
Okay.
and I think
Fair
he's
enough.
a devoted
Fair
friend. He wants to come back and help. He talks about being concerned for Jessup's safety a lot.
Mhm.
That's true.
Right, but he's a firm. His rule set is ethics,
Yeah.
as rooted in the pursuit of scientific knowledge.
Yeah. His
We can-
motivations are overdetermined.
Right, so he'll just do that, but it still lands him in the right a lot of the time.
Yeah. All right, Emily, we already know what Matt thinks.
This is the hardest one, I think.
It's not as hard for me. I'd be interested to hear your reasoning.
I think she's a Ravenclaw.
Wow. I think I put my cards on the table. I'm with Matt. I think she's an easy Hufflepuff.
It's an easy.
I think she's
Assessment.
also Hufflepuff, but I think she's a Hufflepuff for like different reasons than
State them, please.
Parrish. I just think that I keep coming back to the final scene where he starts to like explode again or whatever into the primordial like energy ball.
Goo.
Yeah.
And then she's like,
Gooner.
don't do it. Like, remember that you love me. And then she starts to explode into the primordial fucking energy ball.
Yes.
And then he's like, no, wait. And he like embraces her. And he like, I guess like the purpose is to like be like, oh, like they asserted their humanity asserted themselves over this fucking like, potential of nothingness or whatever.
Right.
And so but like it obviously the whole book is him getting to that point, but she kind of had that all along. And that weird sort of faith in humanity, whatever you want to call it, like sort of deep humanness. I don't know. I just associate that with Hufflepuff in the sense that like every other house is sort of pretentious and like the thing that they foreground, which is like courage and in Gryffindor and cunning and Slytherin and like intellect in Ravenclaw, and like with Hufflepuff, it's just like, oh, just being a person. It feels like, I don't know.
That
Anyway.
okay, no, that actually is a good ass explanation.
Like she's
Yeah.
just like
Fresh.
that whole ending is just her being like, I'm a human being. It's like the very existential thing that you mentioned earlier. It's like that's the big reveal at the end, you know?
Yeah.
I'm a person.
We're just all people on this fucking blue and green marble. You know what I mean?
The pale blue dot, as a friend of the pod,
Sometimes I look
Carl
at them.
Sagan once
Yeah.
said.
Carl
Yeah.
Sagan was like,
Come on the podcast, Carl.
Yeah, come back to life, dude. We miss you.
I look at the green and blue dot marble and I'm like, I don't see borders, dude.
Dude,
You know what I mean?
Me neither, dude.
It's all
Also, we will
fictional.
also accept Neil deGrasse Tyson to come on the pod.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yes.
You can
No,
come
why
on
not?
pod.
Yeah.
We can, you know, he's probably got some dumb thoughts.
Yeah, he would probably. I think he would love this book. Actually, he probably has like the few copies that exist.
Yeah. He's like, I didn't feel up that woman. I was only part
was
of
the monkey version of me.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh shit! I didn't.
No.
I didn't even mean to do that. I said the monk.
No, he would come on and he would correct. He would correct all
Your
the.
minds went there. My
He would-
mind did not.
He would try to correct all the like logical flaws with the
Oh,
book
yeah,
or whatever. 'Cause
yeah.
He's like
I feel
he's a pedantic person. Like that's his whole.
Yeah, that's his
Oh yeah,
whole
I think I
fucking
saw like he was reviewing Gravity, and he talked about how he noticed the stars weren't right in the hemispheres.
Dude,
And I was
I-
like, "Fuck you, dude!
thing. 0 out of 10.
Yeah. Who gives
Don't
a
jerk
fuck?
off to your telescope, you
I-
piece of garbage."
And you know, this is a family member and I love them, but like I went to go see ants with my aunt who was an entomologist.
Wait,
And I was
wait,
like-
wait. Your aunt is an entomologist,
Yes.
and you saw ants. Okay,
And I saw ants with her.
One of
You
the
gotta write like you need to write like a short story about
You
this.
really
I
should,
feel
actually.
like this is so good. This is so
one of
Ants with
good.
ant.
one of the best works of socialist filmmaking ever made, by the way. Ants, the movie.
Yeah, superior
never
to
seen
I
Bugs
thought it was
Life.
anti-commun. Wasn't it like anti-communism? Wasn't
No,
that the
sir.
message?
Ant,
No, sir.
It was. I thought the takeaway was like communism is bad.
No, I thought the takeaway was that it's good.
Well, because like the ant colony was like the communist society, right?
You might be thinking of A Bug's Life.
Maybe. Anyway, go ahead. So you saw ants with your
No,
aunt.
it's more nuanced than you think, Gabe. It is one at once critical and also celebratory of the communal living sort of.
Woody
important-
Allen
Right, fair
hashtag
enough.
problematic
Yeah.
voiced, I think, the lead ant in that
Yeah,
movie.
he did.
yeah,
And
So-
I was and I was disregarded even from the moment I was a larva. Yeah, such a good movie. And she was like, you know, the ants are female. And instantaneously I was like, shut up. Shut up, dude.
you're like 9 years old.
You're
Shut up,
I was
ant.
9. I was like literally like 7 years old. I was like, shut up, nerd.
yeah.
It was your aunt's name Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah.
Good God. Good God.
You know what, Gabe? It wasn't her name.
This is why people listen for 2.5 hours to get to this
Yeah.
content.
Yeah,
The
dude, 4
juice.
patrons, dude. 4
Yeah.
patrons for this.
Epic.
Four whole
Epic.
patrons
Yeah.
willing to part with their money, two of which are
Legends.
Noah's personally.
Legends.
Listen. Yeah. Anyway, what were we talking about?
We were just talking about Emily's house, which
yeah.
I think we all kind of agree is Hufflepuff. But
Hufflepuff.
Dan's explanation was
Very
the
good.
best.
Yeah.
I still think she's Ravenclaw. She just has Hufflepuff tendencies. I think she's enough invested in her work and her family. Her family and her love life is not her whole personality, guys.
No, well, no, I know
I
that.
don't. Yeah, no, but that's not what we're saying.
Misogynists.
We're saying the leap of faith she's willing to take is one that maybe a Hufflepuff would be more willing to take.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just she's a Ravenclaw in love.
So you think
I don't-
she's so you, so
I,
you're
I
like
think
you're
she's,
like, you're like
I
a,
think
you're like
she's
a
fascinated
Maoist.
by her. I
You think she's
fascinated by
Ravenclaw
her.
with Hufflepuff characteristics?
Paul, which
Yes.
which houses do you swipe left and right
Fair
on,
enough.
on Tinder?
I
Would you
swipe
say?
right on all of them.
Yeah.
Actually, I haven't had Tinder in like 6 months though.
Yeah.
Good for me.
Which is a big accomplishment for Paul. Shout out,
It
Paul.
is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tinder sucks, dude. I was
It
on
sucks.
it for years, unfortunately.
Years.
Yeah.
F in the
Oh.
chat for Tinder.
Yeah. Well, no.
No, I'm sure it's thriving.
Or just don't pay it respects.
True. Yeah, do not pay Tinder respects. You're right, Matt.
Just forget it.
It should be
All right,
not
let's
named Voldemort.
Let's wrap this bitch up.
Let's fucking score this bitch up.
Let's do it.
If not
dude.
first.
Dibs
Well,
on
I
first.
chose-
Oh shit.
well,
Okay, Dan can't go first, so I'll go first.
Yeah.
I chose it, so I get to go last.
So Matt,
Yeah.
per tradition, gets to go last because it's his pick. Which maybe we should revisit. Maybe the person who
Well, I think-
chooses it has to go should go first from now.
Maybe
on.
when we have guests, the guests can go last.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Just
I can
score
go
it. Shut
third,
up.
I don't care.
All right, fine. I'm going first either way.
All right.
I think the book is conceptually like a 10 out of 10. Fabulous idea, super interesting, some really like thought-provoking concepts, many of which we've touched upon here. I think the execution was just like a full-on blunder. And I cannot recommend to people that you should read this book. It is an interesting sort of historical artifact in terms of where it falls in the like psychedelics era, moving into the 80s. And it's interesting to read in conversation with the film, which has its own sort of fascinating story. But like as a book, I cannot suggest that basically anybody read this independently. It's like a 1.7 for me.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
I'll go first. Or I'll go second. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think that the concept is even that sci-fi interesting to me. Like I think even the ideas were just like, well, it's a guy goes into a tank of water and turns into a monkey. What the fuck? So like 5 out of 10 for that. The writing was just horrendously bad, like unreadable. I mean, it's hard because we generally read like pretty good books on the podcast, so it read like a bad sci-fi novel. So there's other books out there that are published that are in the same realm of writing ability. So I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like it's as bad as plenty of other badly written books. So it's not like the worst written book ever. But in terms of the books we've read on the podcast, it's by far my lowest score. I just can't get it. I mean, I like the effort. Like, yeah, you're trying to write a book and you tried, but you should reread it. And then if it sucks, bury it in the ground and let no one else read it ever because it was awful. And I also, my closing statement is that it's if it's less than 1 out of 5, that means it's ruined. It made your life worse, right? And actually,
Yes,
this
that is the
fits
standard.
that
Your life
category
worse.
for me
That's the
because
standard.
I'm gonna go into watching the movie now, knowing I hate this book so bad, and I'm gonna not like the movie that much.
That's a
so
good
it actually
point.
it has to score under a 1 for me. So I'm gonna give it a 0.5.
Ooh.
Damn, dude. That's
No, I actually think that's a good point.
I mean, your reasoning is sound,
based on
though.
our
Yeah.
standards, which anything under a 1 is actively made your life worse.
I did.
I think Paul made a plausible case that for him, this book might have done that.
all
Yeah.
right.
All right, I'll be brief. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. And the reason why, like, I mean, I'm with all you guys on like all the shortcomings that you've discussed. I will say that for the 60% of the book that I thought it was maybe being satirical, I thought like, oh, this is on to something. But then when it turned away from that, I was like, okay, whatever. So that's why it's like, if it would have just finished out the last third of it, and gone in a more satirical route, I think it could have been like an all-time great masterpiece potentially. So for that reason, I go 2 out of 5. Yeah.
I am 100% was going to say the same thing as Dan. I'm saying a 2 as well for basically the same fucking reasons, dude. Chayefsky is I don't care. He's an OG. That colors my opinion of him unfairly or not.
Yeah,
And
me too.
yeah, basically a huge blunder, but not actively making my life worse. And in some ways enjoyable because I actually was already with the foreknowledge that it was regarded as trash going in as a pulp novel, which I think changes the perceptions too, or like the expectations. So I'm going with the 2.
Yeah, and it was fun to talk about with you guys too.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Well,
man.
that's always true, no matter
That's
how bad the book is.
That's right.
That's true.
You wouldn't argue. We don't. Whatever. We can get into it another time. It wasn't written as a pulp novel, though. It was earnest.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is that I'm just sort of agreeing with Dan's like
Yeah.
initial conception. Like, okay, pulpy book, sort of fucking with genre in a smart way to satirize an era.
Yeah.
And I ended not thinking that was true anymore, and that busting it all the way down to a 2 from like a potentially very higher score.
For sure. For sure. All right. Well, Dan, thanks for coming on once again.
Thanks,
Viva la
Dan.
Dude podcast.
Preach.
They just came back from a hiatus. Go check them out. Where can people find you? On Twitter?
Yeah, we're not going to talk. We don't really talk about books, but we talk about stuff that we don't know about. So that's
they don't straitjacket themselves into some specific.
We don't know about books, so that's a good.
Yeah, but you can find us basically anywhere that you get podcasts at Viva la Dude. Really, just hit us up on Twitter. That's where we like to dish it out. So
all about the Twitter.
Thanks for having me on, guys, and we'll get you guys back on the revamped Viva la Dude podcast. Soon. So
any old time.
Yeah, we'll talk. I'll talk to the boys, but yeah.
Sweet.
Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this, whether or not you like the book.
I sure did enjoy it.
I'm gonna go take some fucking mushrooms right now. So
hell yeah, dude.
And it's like go lay in my backyard and try to recreate a sensory deprivation tank.
If you got enough dew on the grass, it might work.
That sounds a little bit nice. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Just salt that grass before you lay down. Salty dew. Float upon the grass.
Get a shit ton of fucking salt on the ground.
Salty dew.
Salty dew.
Salty dew. We'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.